Good evening, everybody. You probably thought it wasn't going to happen, but 10 p.m. on a Friday night, Mark and I are here with BlackBox ahead of Gameweek 12. How are you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm all right. As seen on TV, of course, after today.
It's fun today, isn't it?
Yeah, you were explaining. I got a little image there of us on the FPL show.
You spot the hand holding that went on. I can't remember why were we holding hands again?
Well, what happened there was when Kelly moved over for the photo, she touched my knee, and I said, "Oh, well, and I then touched your knee, but your hand was there." That's the explanation.
And that's caught on camera.
And she said, "Oh, that's the one I'm going to use," and she did.
A lovely photo, that, isn't it? It's very
good.
Very full of joy. That one. It's really nice.
Indeed, it was very good doing the FPL show. First time for ages for me, but really enjoyed doing it with you. It was very good.
It was the first time we've been on for about what did they say, three and a half years or something?
For me. Yeah, as a pair. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So, I think we got the Christmas jumpers last time we were on, didn't we?
We did, and I was wearing an Arsenal one because Forest were nowhere near the Premier League at the time.
That's right. You had an Arsenal one.
Yeah, next time I can wear a Forest Christmas jumper, can't I? Because very good. We got. It's a late show. This is going to be very laid back, and I don't know. We're pretty ill prepared because I've been away out the country all week, and I got back last night. Flew in on a delayed flight. Then we did the FPL show together this morning. I had to work this afternoon, so we haven't had time to prep too much. But we do have the last 6 tables are making their debut tonight, so we've got some interesting new data to look at, both for team data and players as well. I've got a new camera, which is making its debut tonight as well. Hopefully that doesn't overheat.
It's just got to outdo me a little bit. Not quite on rank yet, but the tech.
The ranks are close. Look at those. And
8 points.
They shouldn't be green arrows. They should be red arrows. So I got that wrong in the overlay.
You got a green, didn't you?
No, both got red arrows.
You got red arrows. God.
But we'll ignore that we didn't get that right anyway. Welcome to everyone in the chat. We've got Matt Branthwaite, FBL Hazards, Johnny A, Greg Foss, Jack the Cat, Fraser Gray, Nathan Wollaston, Niraj Sharma, Webby. We've seen Trigger Lips in there. Ollie Sack, BB Defender. You said Oscar was about as well. Congrats, Oscar, on the win last night. FBL Lard, Daniel Lucas, Henning, Chris Superman, Jamie Clark, Will Brownlee. There's loads in there. We've got 716 watching us. We knew we'd do all right for lives, didn't we? Yeah, 716. So good evening. Thank you for joining us on this late Friday night Black Box. It's going to be nice and laid back. There's going to be data. And there's going to be hopefully some nice chat, and we'll involve
I'm a bit more laid back than the show because I actually know what I'm doing with my transfers now.
Oh, it's funny you should say that because I've rethought mine tonight.
Ooh,
and I might even rethink the captaincy as well. Mine haven't changed radically, but I've got a hit in mind now, and I'm really tempted to do it.
Okay, well I'm on a -4, so I can keep that 8 points between us, which would be nice.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see. It is very cold in my shed. I've got the heater on for the first time, and the mono slipper, which is a one-piece kind of slipper for your feet, and it's like an electric blanket. So that's coming.
Okay, that's very fancy. You haven't got the feet. What was it? The hot water massager thing that you had?
No, but that's what I was referring to. The mono slipper, I call it.
Mono slipper, right?
Yeah. There you go. This is the content one. Smash the like, said Patrick McCarthy. Absolutely.
All super chats and Patreon memberships will go towards more mono slippers for the Black Box boys. So.
Absolutely right, Patrick. Smash that like. Right. Let's start with our sponsor. Let's start with that because it's one of our favourite sponsors, isn't it? So over to you for more detail on that.
Yes, it's Manscaped
just in time for Christmas.
I know. I appreciate you're watching this late. I appreciate that, sponsors aren't always your favourite thing, but you've got to love a Manscaped sponsor, so don't begrudge us. I want to talk about the Beard Hedger, which is obviously the Manscaped's beard trimmer. So if you want a beard, I was going to say if you want a beard that looks like mine, but maybe not everyone wants that. You've got one. You've got one of those. You've got one of these as well, haven't you? The old Beard Hedger.
Have I got a beard hedger? I don't know. I've got the shaver that I use for other areas, but I haven't used that too often, I must say. But
maybe you haven't got a hedger actually. It might not have been in the.
I use the nasal hair one quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay. I bought the beard hedger separately. I think because we got obviously gifted the things to try, but I bought the beard hedger similar, and genuinely it's the best beard trim I've ever used. I use it to this day. Waterproof, loads of different settings. gets it just the right length that I like. I won't go into too much detail about the ball trimmer, but also it's very good. But the key thing, Mark, is you need a different device for your beard and for your balls. You can't be using the same.
You don't want to make that mistake, do you?
Exactly.
It could be quite painful if you get the two mixed up. So
absolutely, and that's it. Because if you're using a regular beard trimmer for your nether regions, you might nick yourself, and you don't get that with the Manscaped ball trimmer. No. So you mentioned Christmas. I mean, it might be a bit weird asking your significant other for a ball trimmer, but this is the world we're living in. And if they use our code BlackBox at the checkout, they get 20% off for free shipping. So
this is the world we're living in. Absolutely. Beard trimmer, maybe for Santa there. Very topical, of course. Right, absolutely. Let's look at our game weeks. Let's start with yours. Red Arrows, have we said, 46 points for you. Talk us through it for the podcast.
Do I have to? Yeah. I mean, my transfers were pretty good. I took out Lewis and... who did I take out? Lewis and Watkins, and bought in Aït-Nouri and Kuna, who got 18 points, and both those other players blanked. So, on the face of it, 18 points was pretty good. The trouble was they were pretty much all my only points. Raya in goal, Trent Gabriel and Alex Moreno were blanking. Foden blanking again. And Mbeumo got the assist, everyone's got him. Haaland was on for free bonus and a goal and everything, but then lost it. I captained Solanke, which was just a complete disaster. And I was absolutely fuming when Garnacho was on the bench, but he did come on and score. So, yeah, it was just disappointing because, Foden's a big differential for me. I went against Salah. I had Solanke captain, double Arsenal defence. I made the mistake of checking my rank when they had the clean sheet in place, at 70 minutes, 72 minutes, that classic.
Oh, never do that.
Never do that. And I was on for a nice green arrow. And then obviously they lost the clean sheet and it went down to a big red. So yeah, it was really, I mean, Foden has just been, you've said before on previous teams, I've always managed to catch Foden's haul. I think that died when I sold him before that hat-trick he scored last season. And that's just carried on into this season. He's just not delivering at all. But the good news is he's got another week. He's got a stay of execution in my side.
Execution for Foden. Yep. I really thought he was going to go.
Nah, okay, he's getting one more week to prove himself and get back in my good books.
Okay. The Solanke captaincy, that must have been painful to watch.
I mean, he scores and handballs himself in the build-up to the thing, and then in the last minutes misses the one-on-one. And we say it all the time, but it really does feel that with all the great assets we've got, Salah's, the Haalands, the Sakas, the Palmers, you've just got to get the captaincy right. You've just got to get points, no matter how you get them, whatever hook, crook, whatever. You need some captaincy points on the board, and I think it's going to be the season where if you get the captain wrong, you're going to be looking at a red arrow, because it's such a key part, I think, of this season. And it seemed like a good week to take the punt on Solanke. I did not expect them to lose to Ipswich, and obviously he blanked, and Salah went on another mad one. So it was very disappointing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with the captaincy, and it comes at a time when the captaincy starts to become a bit of a dilemma with many options, and we're going to look at it tonight when we look at this week's captaincy, because it's far from a foregone conclusion where we go, and I think that'll be the case now for several weeks. It's going to be very, very difficult to read where we go with that, and obviously Solanke on paper looked a very good option, and I was very, very tempted. You nearly talked me into it. I think you talked Sam into it, didn't you, as well? Very influential. I mean,
Sam didn't need much convincing, did she? Let's be honest, to go for a Spurs striker. But yeah, I thought you were going to go for it, and
I was close.
Yeah, Salah was the man.
Okay, let's have a look at my game. Let's bring this out. It wasn't, there wasn't too much in it really. I came out with 53. The difference was the captaincy in a big way. Flecken in goal, just a customary 1 point for the Brentford goalkeeper. Another cracking game, not for the neutral, but not for the Flecken owners down at the G-Tech. Trent with the 1 point. We'll talk a lot about Trent later.
Was this the Flecken? This wasn't the Flecken. No, sorry, that was the week before. I'm getting so confused with my.
No, it was a win
weeks.
Over Bournemouth, wasn't it? This one, I think.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Gabriel 2 points. Porro with the assist for 4. Got the assist for the Bentancur goal from the corner. Took the corner, of course. And Mbeumo 5. Johnson 2. Disappointing from Jono. Salah, the captaincy, made it all right. 28 points. Came in with the 14-point return against Villa. We'll talk about him a bit later, I'm sure. Semenyo 2 points. Rodgers just the 1. Haaland got the 5 points because he scored but picked up a booking, and then Solanke got the 2. Salah really wasn't that impressive, but does what he always does, doesn't he? He got the assist, which was perhaps a little bit fortunate for the Núñez goal, and then capitalised on the break from the defensive error. And what was Conte doing, getting back on the line and just allowing Salah to just tuck it away? It must have been painful to watch that for you.
God, yeah, it was. It was incredibly painful, and it was painful watching Haaland miss. I mean, he scored the goal and then had a 1-on-1 about 20 seconds after the restart against Brighton, and obviously, I'm so happy Brighton got the win in that game. But a nice little 3-2 win with Haaland scoring a brace would obviously been a bit sweeter. But yeah, it was a funny old game week because then all that happened, and then obviously Salah. Well, there was a point with Solanke, wasn't he? He was injured, and I think I was watching Soccer Saturday, and they were saying, "Oh, Solanke's picked up an injury; he's going to be going off. Werner's coming on," and then he managed to stay on the pitch and still blanked. It's just every time Liverpool score, you just know Salah's going to be involved, and it's been like that for years. Doesn't seem to be any sign of it regretting, and it's the easiest fixture imaginable. So obviously, I'm not buying him this week.
7th double-digit return of the season, which is just extraordinary, isn't it? In 11 games, 7 double-digit.
I don't even really begrudge him here. Like his underlying stats aren't as good as Haaland's, for example, but he's just playing really, really well. He's like last season he was shifted out wide a bit, and you maybe felt like some of his returns were a little bit fortuitous. I don't really think they have been this year. He's just finding ways to get points and scoring goals, and Liverpool look a really good side. And yeah, fair play. He's done really well. I should have moved for him. I should have moved for him 2 weeks ago, but obviously
we touched on it, didn't we, in the FPL show today about the bonus points, and Above Average did an excellent podcast, really in depth. They did another 2-hour job, I think, on with Praz on the BPS. But the real takeaway from that, for me, and we've seen it this season, has been the shots on target, and less so the fouls won, have really made a difference to some key players. And Haaland, Salah, and Palmer are the top 3 beneficiaries of those additional BPS points for shots on target, which is 2 BPS and 1 point for fouls won. And if you look at the players, I think it's Haaland's gained 68 BPS, Salah 58, and Palmer 52. They're the top 3. So basically, the changes there have just cemented the already effective heavy hitter players as bonus magnets. But the benefit for Salah was he was never really. There were times where he would score or get an assist, but because he was dispossessed or because he had shots off target, he was maybe losing out to the bonus significantly, perhaps to people like Trent, who was creating a lot of key chances. 2 impacts of the shots on target and the fouls won has been that Salah has got more bonus because his shots off target are weighed out by the shots on target, plus the fouls won. And him getting more BPS has meant that Trent has really struggled. So even with the clean sheets, Trent hasn't been in the bonus as much as we would expect. So that's been a really interesting dynamic in that Liverpool team, how that's shifted the balance there, that BPS change.
Yeah, and Trent, I think Trent's been probably the biggest disappointment of the season, right? I mean, you could argue Haaland maybe in the last kind of 5 weeks, but I think given what we thought Trent was going to do at the start of the season, in fact, he's only got 1 attacking return. Okay, the clean sheets have kind of made up for it, but you could have got that from a Konate or a Van Dijk for less. And obviously now he's got injured as well, and he's going to be out for a bit. And we're going to look at defensive data later, but there isn't really any reason to keep hold of Trent going forwards. The fixtures, the form, the statistics, everything points to an easy sell for him, which I think we've both done this week. But yes, Salah's just a machine, and in previous seasons, it's almost felt like he's needed 2 attacking returns to get near the bonus. And we looked at bonus at the start of the season, didn't we? And we looked at what would happen in certain games where maybe he got 1 attacking return and no bonus, and what that would mean this year. And he was nearly always getting bonus now. So we thought, this could be good for him. And yeah, it has. He's an unbelievable player, but you get through this week, the fixtures, to me, I just don't see more double-digit hauls regularly they've been coming. So I'm just going to keep talking myself out of it.
21 bonus points this season so far, Salah. He's got 24. He got 24 last season. You talk about the fixtures there for Liverpool. Southampton, then it's City at home and Newcastle away. Yes, difficult games, those two, because Obviously, the City game's going to be difficult at any time. Newcastle are coming into form. Then they go to Goodison Park. So it is 3 away games in 4. And the easiest fixture is Southampton. But Everton away on paper could be easy, but that's a derby. So never easy, is it, for Liverpool? And then at home to Fulham. And Fulham's defensively, as we're going to see with the data, have been strong.
Good team.
Yeah, and then it Spurs away. So I absolutely see what you mean with Salah. It's tempting to go without him, but I don't know. The 7 double digits returns are so consistent, aren't they?
Look at those fixtures from 18 though. I mean, it's Leicester, West Ham, and Man United. I mean, as a spoiler, I'm probably gonna be rocking Haaland, Saka, and Palmer from now pretty much. But I mean, in 18, Saka's got Ipswich, Palmer's got Fulham, and Haaland's got Everton at home. Like how am I going to get Salah if I've got those 3? I'm not. So even when the fixtures turn again, I might still be going without him. It's going to be a nervy season, I think. Are
you then looking to hold Haaland then through this period all the way through?
Yeah, I think so. We talked about it on the FPL show. I think I really like this Spurs game for him. Liverpool away is obviously as tough as it gets. I look at Forest, Crystal Palace, Man United, Villa. I think those are good fixtures. I'd happily captain him in against Palace. I'd happily captain him in the home game against Man United. Villa have been struggling after the Champions League exertions. And then I think from 18, I mean, you're going into Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. That is really going to test the non-Haaland crowd, surely, because that is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I get it. And I'm thinking the same. I just wonder where, I'm not going to move for Palmer this week and may not move for him next week. And then it's like, well, actually, do I just hold Haaland through this to get to that run of fixtures and just go Salah Haaland and forego Palmer? But it is a worry. I mean, you can only captain one of them, of course. And Palmer does have great fixtures to come. I think particularly, Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, Palace. That looks like a very good run from 16 in terms of goals that we can expect. Fulham, the toughest game there, but you expect Chelsea to score in all those games, I would say. So, yeah, I guess, there are teams with Salah, Haaland and Palmer, of course, but you have to make sacrifices to get that. And, Saka's not out of the equation either when you look at the fixtures that Arsenal are coming into. So lots of decisions, and we're going to talk about all those players, I'm sure, in a bit more detail. Let's look at great and the good just briefly to see where we stand at. And look at it. Look how close it is. Just 8 points between us.
Yeah, just 8 points. And, it is interesting because I think, our teams have been fairly similar over the last few weeks, but I think we're now starting to see a real divergence in our thinking. And obviously Salah versus Palmer is going to, have a massive impact on what happens. And then, if you do go through with bringing Isak and I go for Saka, then we're going to have those, because I'm putting Isak in that kind of heavy hitter bracket now as well, from what I've seen and from what Newcastle are kind of improving into. So that battle, I think those 4 players between us is going to be really key to seeing who comes up top. Such a big season, 2-2, in the 4 years we've done Black Box, and this is the 5th season, and we're 12 game weeks in and 8 points. It's a shame we're not 8 points different and both in like the top 10k.
Yeah, so we're having our little tussle, but in mid-table at the moment.
Yeah,
what gives us faith? Fabio pulled his wild card out and got a 90-point game week, and,
of course he
smashed it, right? So he's gone right up the rankings. It has been really volatile. Like Andy was above us, both of us, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and he's dropped down now. So I think that the message here is that there are swings in game weeks all the time this season. You can't take anything for granted. Like I said before, last season you could, you'd get red and green arrows, but they were minor ones. So if you could get into the top 100k, you could normally stay around that mark unless you had 3 or 4 disastrous game weeks. Whereas this season, I think you're going to be moving up and down with a lot of regularity, I would say.
Yeah, unless you're FPL Harry, who's obviously just going to be at the top of the table all season and probably finish about 500th in the world.
Well, we'll see. It can go wrong.
He's in the chat as well. Hi, Harry.
Yeah, I don't think Harry even will be taking anything for granted, because I think that he'll see what we're seeing, which is a season where you put the captaincy on the wrong player a couple of weeks, and suddenly you can drop down, just like you said. But also it's very difficult to get on all the heavy hitters at the right time and keep the strength throughout the team. You've said you've looked at some teams above us and you envy them, but I think it's tough because there's still some factors like Bruno, like Foden, who are you could really turn things on the head. Rashford, we talked about today in the FBL show as well. What happens if he gets the central striker berth for United? Suddenly he's a factor. We've seen him have impact on seasons in the past where he became a captaincy option out of nowhere. I relish the fact that the season's given these game weeks where there were swings, because it gives us the hope of making significant rank gains instead of the 50, 100k rank gains or losses we got last season.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think it's become so interesting because Haaland as well has dropped off. Because I think you were complaining at the start of the season, not like you at all, but you were complaining at the start of the season, if Haaland's just going to be that perma captain every week, then that kind of, even if we've got all these other options, we're not really going to go there because he's doing it. And what we needed, I think, whatever happens between now and the end of the season, I think this run of blanks for Haaland is going to make people question him generally. Like there's always going to be that little bit of, he is like, he's not a machine, as he says in Rocky 4. Can we go somewhere else and captain somewhere else? And you either, like me, you kind of blind faith in him and stick with him and hope it's going to turn, which surely it will at some point. Because for example, I look at like Praz's team, and I think he's got a midfield of Saka, Palmer, and Salah in the mid, and I'm like, oh my god, that looks so strong. But I think, well, surely he's going into Spurs at home without any fit centre backs and thinking, oh my god, Haaland could absolutely wreck me. As much as I'm fearing Salah, surely there's fear of Haaland as well if you haven't got him.
Yeah, but I guess he's hoping that not many will captain Haaland and he'll have the main captain in Salah. So the damage would have to be, he'd have to get, 3 or 4 goals for it to be really significant. I mean, yeah, Haaland could take 10, 11 points, 12 points maybe off him. But then in any given game we've got the likes of, Isak, Solanke and players like this who are hitting double-figure returns as well. So, yeah, I don't think Haaland is that one player we fear anymore. I think there's a cast which is, really good. I like going into the game week thinking this could turn for me, but equally this could go against me. And I don't feel like everyone around us has got the same team. I feel like you've just mentioned there, Praz doesn't have Haaland. That's good, right? So it means for once we can, players like Salah and Haaland and Saka and Palmer, if they get points for us, it isn't a foregone conclusion and it's not going to have big effect on your rank. It could well have, because there's a lot of difference.
Well, the other thing is when you take out Haaland, obviously the temptation is to stack the midfield. I'm not even the temptation. The obvious move is to stack the midfield. But then you look at players like Smith Rowe, like Rodgers, and you think these are players who are performing well each week. You're not going to have them, are you? Because you're going to have Fernandes and all the top players. And actually, I wonder if like someone like Rodgers, for example, with Palace at home this week. Got Brentford at home, I think, in a few weeks. Some really good fixtures. Yeah, but he's not in wildcard teams, for example. Going forwards, because wildcard teams have dropped Haaland and they've got him in. Obviously, there might be someone listening to this who've got Rodgers in, but generally, what I'm seeing is not someone like him or Smith Rowe, who I think could are still good value and doing well.
Absolutely, yeah, plenty to play for this season, and our rivalry, just 8 points, is very, very exciting, which is nice to see.
I hope it stays competitive, and one of us.
Yeah, no, so do I. No, it's great, and our teams are very different. So we have got the season data, but I guess we'll look at the last 6 data, because we haven't looked at it at all this season. So let's bring that up for defence, because really it is interesting. I think what is quite interesting for me is Newcastle leap up to 3rd in this table based on the last 6 with XG conceded on penalty of 1.00.
Hang on, this is last 6 defence, even though it says season defence.
Oh God, yeah. Let me change that there.
Just check it.
I will change that live on screen. It is the last six matches. So I will do that now. So effectively we've seen Newcastle's defence suddenly become one that, is rivaling the top defences. Liverpool above them 0.93, Arsenal above them 0.82. So Arsenal back as the top defence if you're looking at just the last 6. It is a smaller sample, of course. But I saw Newcastle at the City Ground and was really impressed with them. And I know that, for example, Lewis Hall has picked up a lot of traffic this week as a replacement for Trent. I think he's had 1 price rise already. Below Newcastle, it's Everton and Forest and Bournemouth and Fulham and Villa and Chelsea, right? So those are the teams that have made up the top 10 over the season quite consistently. But Newcastle, go from, where are they over the season? They are 10th over the season, but then over the last 6, the smaller sample, they leap to 3rd. What do you make of that? I mean, I think Newcastle seem to be really finding the groove.
Yeah, and you can see from that dark red square, they've had tough fixtures. I mean, they played Man City, they played Brighton, they played Chelsea, they played Arsenal. They went away to you, and the form that Forest have got, I thought Forest were going to win that game and came away from that pretty comfortable 3-1 winners. We talked about it a few weeks ago, didn't we? And we were like, there's just not that, because Trippier's not in the side, there's not really that creativity, there's not that same kind of like swag about them. And I just think getting Isak back has changed all that, because he just gives them that focal point up top, and he can create something, and he's going to get into the right areas, and the players that have come in are starting to find their feet. Livramento's been playing well. Hall obviously really popular this week, good price as well at 4.4, and Howe's doing a good job. So I am a bit surprised, given that they've had such different, the first 6 they looked so poor, and then in kind of the 5 fixtures after that they've looked a lot better. But I'm not totally surprised, because I rate Howe and I like Newcastle's squad, so it was probably bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, I think the Newcastle resurgence is really interesting given the fixtures as well. If we look at the long-term fixture list, they're third in this ticker behind Chelsea and Arsenal. West Ham and Palace next, then Liverpool at home, but then a run of Brentford, Leicester, Ipswich, Villa, which looks really enticing. They have got tough games away at United and Spurs. They have got the Liverpool game, of course, but I think let's have a look at the next 6. Yeah, they're okay. So they're 6th overall in when we just isolate the next 6 in the ticker. So there's no question that the fixtures are coming their way as well. They have had a tough run, as the last 6 colour scheme here shows. They've got one of the toughest last 6 of all. So investment in Isak, investment in Hall, I think that looks warranted. I mean, even Pope as a goalkeeping option as well. He hasn't really had a mention, but I think suddenly we've got to look at Newcastle as a source of talent, which is great, because they've got Gordon there as well, who could come into the equation if we can find a midfield slot, and he starts winning penalties. Yeah,
and there's a few questions in the chat about what we think is going to happen to Hall over the festive schedule. Is he going to start every game? Probably not. I think there's a lot of players who aren't guaranteed to play every game, unless you're literally buying, I don't know, like a Lewis Dunk or, like an established centre-back. I think fullbacks are going to be a position which are rotated no matter who you go for. It wouldn't be too surprising if Ait-Nouri missed a game or anyone. I think anyone's at risk. I think Hall has done more than enough this season. He's got the full backing of Howe to suggest he is first choice. So he's going to play the majority of games. Whether he misses a game for a rest is down to his fitness and, whether Howe thinks the team, how much rotation he has. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Howe is a massive rotator of players. I mean,
he's not at all, no.
He likes that back 4 to be pretty established. I mean, look at Dan Burn. He missed all those games, and then as soon as he was fit, he kind of came back into the team. So of all the managers and all the teams, I actually think Hall probably does have a decent chance of playing every game. But
I guess it's when Trippier's fit, does Livramento switch to the left for some games? When Botman's fit, does Burn switch to the left? Yep. So that does put question marks over the long-term prospects of Hall. But I think in the short term, he's a fine go-to, and the data certainly supports this. Look down to 14th over the last 6. You see Man City there. I mean, where were they in the season data? They were 5th, 1.14 XG conceded non-penalty per 90 over the season. But over the last 6, we find City 1.48. So recent data shows that defensively, they've been pretty open, well, very open. Look at that, 4 big chances conceded per 90.
That's the second most in the league, I believe. Ipswich.
Behind Ipswich, yeah.
4.5, yeah. I think the data is now finally kind of showing what we see when we watch City play, in the sense that they play obviously quite high. They're very easy. They're very easy to play against at times in midfield. They get bypassed in midfield, and balls go over the top, and speedy players get on the end of it. And it doesn't massively surprise me. It often feels that they only need like kind of one chance against them to score. I mean, if they're getting 4 big chances against them a game, I mean, look at the chances conceded per 90. That's 8.6. That's the lowest of all teams in the league, but the big chances is second highest. So when they get a chance, that is what I mean. That's when a ball comes over the top and the player's one-on-one with Ederson, and most of the time they score it and they concede a stupid goal. Kovacic is out now as well for a month. They play Spurs next, then they play Liverpool as well. They've got a big game in the Champions League, having lost so badly to Sporting, and they need to kind of get their act together. And I do wonder if it's going to be a case of we're going to need to score more goals, and not tighten up, because I don't really think they've got the person. They're so injury ravaged. How are they just going to... I don't see how they can tighten up. They're going to push, Stones into midfield or something like that?
It's very difficult, isn't it, without the Rodri protection as well. And they're just so open on the transition. Walker isn't the defender he was. He's still pacey, but he's not someone who is absolutely unbeatable now. So even he's not they try and play him as a Van der Ven, don't they? Like Spurs do. They play a high line, and Van der Ven is there to kind of cover up the cracks. But Walker's not able to do that quite as effective as he used to be able to. And people are getting wise to that space in the fullback areas. Vardy.
There's not a lot of pace, is there, in the back line, especially when Walker's not playing?
No, and unfortunately for City, most teams have some pace now, and they're playing Spurs who have it in abundance. So Son, Johnson, Solanke will all be a threat against them. I think certainly Son on the left, because it's the right-hand side of the City defence that teams have tried to exploit. We saw when Fulham went there and Traore was switched flanks to the left in order to have a go. And he had, 3 big chances in that game alone, didn't he? So
sounds like
I think Spurs score, right? Do you not see it?
Yeah, and I think if you've got Brennan Johnson, I think he's the one that I'd want to have, because we've already had a taste of this. We saw City against them in the cup. That's one of the last 4 they've lost. We saw Solanke playing very deep, spreading the ball out to the wide players. Solanke came away from that game without any attacking returns, and other players got involved. Son always seems to score against Man City, for example. If I was going to keep one out of Brennan and Solanke, I'd be keeping Brennan all day, every day.
Would you?
But I don't hate keeping Solanke this week. And actually, when I saw that news against coveted, because I have been tempted, to take an even bigger hit and move Solanke to Isak. I'd do it for free without a second thought, but the hit is now making me think maybe I can just ride it out. And if Solanke got something against this Man City defence, I wouldn't be too surprised.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in two minds about what to do with Solanke, and that gives you a clue as to where I might be going later. Because
interesting.
It's very difficult to. I agree with you. I think Brennan's pace will be key, but Solanke over the long term is probably the better bet to keep. It's interesting, the algorithm. I looked at review tonight, and every solve that you run if you try to play a wildcard this week suggests that Solanke is still an option worth keeping. And Johnson's using up a midfield slot, which we might have the likes of Bruno to bring in as well. Plus, you mentioned the bargains you can find there. There's no shortage of those. So I think it's very difficult.
Sorry, I've got Dibbling. I've got little Dibbling.
Yeah.
Is he?
Not the bargains I was talking about there with Dibbling.
Not quite. Not quite.
Let's look at attack. This is attack for the season, but once again, I'll need to change the heading on this. This is the last 6 as. While I do that, do you want to pick out some data that's of interest there?
Yeah, I mean, Spurs are top, which I think is key to looking at those assets. And again, the fixtures on paper don't look great. The fact it's Man City, then I think it's Fulham at home, Bournemouth away. Bournemouth are really tough attacking, good side when playing at home, and then obviously it's Chelsea after that. So the fixtures don't tell me it's great, but I kind of want to keep a Spurs attacker, because I look at these stats and think, in terms of big chances per 90, they're right up there in terms of chances per 90. I think that's the best in the league. And as I said, the XG non-penalty per 90 of the last 6 is the highest. They have had good fixtures though. Yeah, you would expect them to be at the top of this list, but I saw a few people saying that with Romero and Van der Ven out, Postecoglou's going to park the bus. He doesn't know how to park the bus. There's no game. If they go down to 9 men against Chelsea and play with a defence on the halfway line, there's no way he's going to look to park the bus. It's just not. It's not his style.
If anything, he'll think he's got to go and score more goals.
Of course he will. It should be a really entertaining and attacking game. It's got 0-0 written over it.
No, it can't be, can it? I mean, it is interesting to see Spurs hold this, because I think over the season they're the top attack as well. Yeah, 1.97. Last 6, it goes up to 2.10, because the fixtures have been good over the last 6, as the colour shows there. Interesting to see Arsenal leap up, 1.94. I mean, we've had some doubts about their attack, and over the season they're 6th, but over the last 6 fixtures they move up to 2nd. And then Chelsea is impressive, because they've had a tough run, and yet 1.85 shows that, moving to Palmer and maybe Jackson as well. I've seen a lot of people say that Isak isn't a shoe-in when you've got Jackson to consider as well. And I think it's fair enough. We talked today on the FBL show about our top 3 strikers, and we both went Jackson for the third option. It's interesting to see Chelsea up there now. I mean, they're really settling under Maresca, aren't they?
They look a more balanced side than they did under Pochettino, and I thought he was unlucky to lose his job at the end of the season, because obviously he got them playing good football towards the end of the year. But I do think it was still the Palmer show, wasn't it? It was all about how can we most get Palmer the ball, and you look at Neto's equaliser against Arsenal. That's a great goal. Madueke stepping up. He's now in the England team. I think Jackson's really kicked on from where he was last season. Casado's been excellent as well. Obviously, I always knew there was a player there, but he was much maligned for the fee they paid for him. He's getting a tune out of all of these different players now. Defensively, they still look very gettable, and I wouldn't fear playing any attacker against them. But I can't see them not scoring in many games this year, because they've got so much attacking threat.
Yeah, no surprise really down the bottom. We've seen Southampton, Leicester and Everton down there all season. I think if we look at the season data, that's what we see as well. West Ham have crept up a bit, which is interesting, but they've had easier fixtures. But they've been mid-table. Their assets just aren't worth mentioning. Fulham have been pretty consistent, and Smith Rowe's been rewarding his owners all season as well. Newcastle attack here doesn't look too tasty, but that's the fixtures, and Isak is the dominant force there. So it's more difficult to pick a mid-table team when there's maybe 3 or 4 sources of points. But I think with Newcastle, it's all about Isak at the moment. Gordon could come into it. And Villa, we've seen this all season, not really at their fluent best, and dropping down to 12th in the table part over the last 6. United, Amorim has got a lot to do there, hasn't he?
He sure has, yeah. And it's really interesting that we saw the press conference from him today, where he's saying, he basically just confirmed he's going to go with the tactics that he's been using at Sporting, which is obviously the 3 at the back system, and the wing backs and the 2 just behind the striker. So he obviously hasn't had a lot of time to implement that. He's also had players off on international duty as well, and he's talked about wanting more willingness to run back and track back and everything like that. But I do wonder how quickly it's going to be to implement all of those different things in a go. I mean, he's got the fixtures to do it, and I think Van Nistelrooy has left them in a good stead. But yeah, they haven't had an identity for so long. It's going to take time to give them an identity, I think.
I mean, the fixtures are decent in the very short term, Ipswich and Everton, but I do think that run Arsenal, Forest, City is really tough. I mean, so if you're getting on Bruno, you're really banking on him delivering over these next 2, because if he comes out of these 2 with just an assist or maybe just the single goal, he's then going against the 3 very good defences in Arsenal, Forest, City. We've seen that City recently have given up chances. I mean, are United a counter-attacking team? I guess Amorim can make them one, but we haven't seen that kind of identity from them for some time. They've got pace in Diallo, Rashford as well, but yeah, I mean, we don't know enough yet, do we? We're making a lot of assumptions on what Amorim's that there's going to be a bounce, that Amorim's going to get a tune out of the likes of Bruno and Diallo and Rashford. And we're really banking heavily on these next 2. It would have been better if the fixtures were tougher in the short term and then get better, but they don't really until... Well, I mean, Bournemouth at home, Wolves, Newcastle, that's okay. Then it's Liverpool away. I mean, there's not a sustained run of excellent fixtures. It's a splattering, isn't it, really?
No, I think you need to buy now. If you're gonna bank on it, you just have to take the punt and buy now. Because I think if you wait a week... and you go for Everton, you like what you see against Ipswich, buy for Everton, you're only getting 1 week out of that before the fixtures kind of turn. So you want Ipswich and Everton. I'm kind of happy to kind of wait. I know Bruno's obviously really, really popular, and he's just hit 17 points and all that, but I'm happy to wait, because we just don't know what we're going to see from them. And if Bruno goes on and hits another 2 double-digit haul, fair enough. You've done great. You've backed it and not. But if he plays really deep and... Man United struggle a bit with the new systems, and there's too much reliance on the wing backs, and they don't really know what they're doing, and all the centre backs are a bit disjointed. That could also happen. So I'm happy to wait.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I expect to see a different style of play, and Amorim's talked about the identity is what he wants to get. He wants the supporters to see that identity early on. What does that mean? And does that translate to more goals? Does it translate to more points? It's a fascinating scenario going to Ipswich as well, because Ipswich just come off the back of the Spurs win. So, you go back a couple of weeks and you think, yeah, United at Ipswich, they should win that game. It should be a comfortable victory. I don't think it will be. I mean, Ipswich will really relish the thought of going, well, we're going to spoil the party here.
Absolutely. They've had a massive win against Spurs as well. So, their tails are going to be up. I just think it's funny, we talk so much about identity and what Man United lack. I mean, you look at all the managers they've had since Ferguson. The only manager who really had any identity in that team was Solskjaer, who we talked about counter-attacking and the quick play that they did. That was the most exciting Man United's been post-Ferguson. So you look at all these managers, Van Gaal, you look at Mourinho, you look at Rangnick when he was in charge, and none of them could deliver on what we expect to see from Man U. So it is a big job for Amorim, especially taking over halfway through, like a third of the way through the season. I think it's going to take time, and it's whether these players buy into it. Because I mean, someone like Rashford, I mean, he's been around for so long and he's underperformed for so long now, and he's almost been, fair enough, he's been given like a clean sheet again, but now he's being like, oh, you're going to be our number 9, you're going to play up front. Does he deserve that?
Well, the thing is, though, if you're Amorim, though, you've got to look at Rashford as one of those key players you've got to get more from, because he unquestionably could be, absolutely top talent. We've seen glimpses. We've seen a little bit a few seasons back where he sustained it and he was explosive as a fantasy asset and was scoring goals in 20, 25 yards, scoring all types of goals. In the list of things that Amorim wants to do quickly, it will be revive Rashford, won't it? That'll be one of the things he'll want to do. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly he can do that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think... I mean, it was only in 22-23 that Rashford got 205 points.
Yeah.
I think was that when he started the season at 6'5", and everyone was kind of all over it. Let me just check. Oh, no, yeah, he was 6'5" when he started that season. So he was like one of the bargains of the year, but... I haven't seen... I mean, last season was 108 points for him last season, 26 starts. That's a really poor return. And only 2 attacking returns in the league so far this season. So I agree, he should be a key man, but how long do you persist? You're very dark.
Yeah, sorry.
Very dramatic.
Some of the camera settings aren't quite right, and obviously I can't tweak that in the go, so I'm just going to turn my lights off a bit. There we go. That'll stop it losing exposure. I'll have a play of it ahead of next week. Let's start looking at players. I'm not going to look at keepers because I don't think there's too much to look at there. So we'll go straight to defenders last 6. And this is quite interesting to bring out some names here, because what really is interesting is where Trent falls. If we look at where he is over the season, he's just about hanging to top spot for XG non-penalty per 90, 0.35. But then you go to looking at the last 6 game weeks and he drops to 9th, 0.24. And then he's in the company of Robertson, Dina, Gusto, Munoz. Suddenly,
Mark Gahey.
Yeah, he looks completely ordinary, doesn't he? Yes, he's in the top 10 for shots per 90, 1.16. Not great. He's in the top 10 for chances created, 1.36. Certainly not great when you look at the fact that Davis is almost doubling that, 3.33. So when you throw the injury in, when you throw the fact that Liverpool's fixtures are tough, they've got City next week, this looks a no-brainer, doesn't it, to move off of Trent?
I think we've given him every opportunity. You and I have stuck by him through thick and thin. I think it's one thing when it's Trent versus Van Dijk or Robertson, and they're 6'5" and he's 7, and there's not much in it, and you always think there's going to be a bit more. But I think with Konate there at 5'4", for 1.6, you're paying 1.6 million more for Trent. You need to see more than this. And those stats are bang average. Like 0.24 XGI per 90 is bang average. Like that doesn't fill me with any real confidence. And he will pick up assists because he's taking the corners, and he will get the old goal because he's getting, he takes the free kicks. But you need it consistent for that price with him. And I don't. From it bears up from what I'm seeing on the pitch as well. There's too many games where he's not bombing forward as much as he did. He's happy to tuck in. He's happy to stay a little bit more, a bit deeper, nearer the halfway line. Don't want that Don't want that from Trent. I want him bombing up, putting balls into the box constantly, getting involved in just outside the penalty area. Not seeing it. Easy sell now.
I mean, Salah is very wide. Szoboszlai is that side when he plays as well. Curtis Jones, I think, has been filling that Szoboszlai role recently. You're just not seeing Trent getting outside Salah and getting crosses in from areas that can be converted. And his chance creation, 1.36. Like I say, I mean, Tsimikas has come in and matched that straight away. Dina's beating it. Roslev's beating it. Who else is beating it? Porro's beating it, 1.67. Timber's beating it, 2.49. And obviously the Arsenal defence is up there with Liverpool's. The only reason Trent is still in the conversation, I think, is because of the clean sheets and Slot making them more robust. So 5 clean sheet returns over the season, I think it is. But only 1 in the last 6. So... yeah, he's been hanging on, but I think the injury is the final nail, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the other really disappointing player on this list is Porro as well. Yeah. He's down in 22nd, 0.17 XGI non-penalty per 90. We're all very much aware Spurs aren't going to be keeping many clean sheets this year. So the only way to justify paying 5.5 for Porro is if he's going to be getting you attacking returns. I know he got the assist the last game, but these stats don't suggest that they're going to be regular enough. So I think he's got to be a sell, or at least thinking about a sell as well. A lot of money for him. Funny
you should say that. Yeah, absolutely. A few names that I've highlighted here. Canate is down in 0.13 XGI non-penalty per 90. But they do play Southampton. Southampton are not coping very well with corners. You go down this, Van Dijk is there as well, 0.08. Always a threat at set plays as well. So those two could be a factor this game week if Southampton continue to struggle at set pieces. Vardiol's quite low, 0.15. I thought he would be higher. Robinson has dropped down 0.14 to 30th as well. Ait-Nouri is 0.17 in 21st. The player that I discussed on the FPL show and the player that I'll be bringing in for Trent is Dina, 0.25. I had a look at him in a bit more detail. I think he's 4th for crosses from defenders. He's top for big chances created. He is creating 1.65 chances per 90. And for me, it's just the short-term fixtures for Villa. If you look at it, if you discount clean sheets, Palace, Brentford and Southampton at home, even if you discount clean sheets, I think he's got attacking returns in a couple of those games. But I think they can keep a clean sheet against Palace without Eze. And Southampton are the weakest attack in the league, I think, at the moment, as we saw. If you look at the attacking data last 6, they're bottom 0.84. So I think there's possibly a couple of clean sheets there for Dina, as well as I've said, against those defences, the potential for more returns. He's got 3 assists already. Are you going to try and talk me out of it? You just don't fancy it at all?
I'm not going to talk you out of it. Go wild on Dina. I have been there so many times with him. I've lost count. Whenever he looks an attractive option, I go for it. I will never, ever, ever forget that run of 5 blanks he got and then an own goal. I'll never forget that. It can't
happen again, can it? He can't. Look, yeah, Matt's saying 6 at home in the last 9. He's got that left back. So I don't think Matsson's a threat to him in that left back role in the league anyway. Yeah, Dina was a troll, says Hezzy. Yeah, that's the narrative.
SK, forget the data. Forget everything.
It's not about data, it's about the fixtures. It's about, he is an outlet for them. That left back role has always been an outlet for Emery because he's got Bailey on the right hand side and Rodgers is playing centrally. He doesn't take up that left wing role, nor does Ramsey really. So they haven't got width on that side. It is Dina. Dina gets forward and provides that width. That's always going to be the case.
You can say whatever you want about him. I will never, ever go there again, ever.
Don't forget,
he ruined me.
He takes corners for them, and they've got that BG guy who does all their set pieces. The fella looks like a BG. Can't remember his name now. Oh, what is his name? They mentioned him on Match of the Day the other day. Austin something or other. But they're very effective in set plays as well. So Dina's got that in his locker. 4-7, I don't think you can go wrong.
You'll find. Well, you'll see. You will see.
Oh dear, injury incoming, says FBL is life. Well, Dina's always got a red card in him. Maybe. I mean, yeah, it'd be hilarious if he does it again. He really would be, wouldn't it?
It will be great. It will be great banter when something happens to Dean over the next 3 games. Because this, I agree with you. Everything points to, and this is it. The fixtures are now turned. It looks wonderful. This is when he'll do something. Dean-like.
I'm
I'm warning you. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I've warned you. If you ignore it, then
fair enough.
it's all on you.
It's interesting. Your guy Moreno's up there, 0.17, 19th as well, getting forward a lot more the last 6. Yeah.
Yeah,
Done all right.
Surprised at that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously got the assist, and then Aina scored and kind of took the shine off him a bit. But yeah, he's been all right. I quite like the way of tapping into the Forest defence with him. The only trouble is the fixtures obviously are really rough, but I'll be playing against Ipswich.
Gusto, another option really.
Yep.
If you're not going Hall and you're not going Dina, Gusto with the fixtures and playing inverted as we saw, because James is certainly not going to fulfil that role. But the only thing about Gusto is Cucurella. But James is out again, so it does seem like Gusto's going to move to the right side. Cucurella will then go left and invert, so Gusto won't be inverted. I guess he's going to play right back now. Reece James isn't going to come back in a hurry either, is he? So
no, I think Maresca likes Gusto. You know, as soon as Reece James was back, he was back in the team. Gusto didn't lose his place. He's playing that inverted role, which is working well. I mean, it's the price, 4.9. It's quite pricey for him. I still prefer your 8 Nouris, and you know, you can go down to cheaper players that we've talked about. I don't hate it. The fixtures are great. I just don't think Chelsea are going to keep many clean sheets, and I don't think he's like, you look at that attacking data. It's not amazing. He's not one for me, but he's all right. He's fine.
I think this is the thing though. Is like clean sheets matter, of course, and obviously when I'm looking at Dino, I'm looking at the fixtures and thinking there could be one there. But I think you've got to find players like Hall and Dino who've got that little bit to offer going forward.
Yeah.
Gusto has, I guess.
Where is Hall? Where is Hall on this list? He's not in the top 30, is he?
No, he can't be for XGI non-penalty per 90. Have a look. I didn't pick him out, so I presume he's below the top 30, basically. Yeah, he doesn't have many shots on goal, does he? He doesn't get forward quite as much. But have a look. I don't think it's an error. Let's have a look what he was over the season. I'd like to see where he's in. Is he even appear in the top 30
I'm just looking at his XGI over the season. It's just pretty rubbish.
It doesn't appear over the season either, so I imagine it's just his XG.
It's not good.
No.
Yeah.
Dalot is there, another option. I mean, if he's going to play wing back, 5.2, you're paying a bit more. But
brutal for owners, wasn't it? With his 57-minute sub or something, whatever it was last week.
Yeah, that was very brutal. Would you rather go Dalot over Mazraoui? I guess you would.
Yeah, because I think that left back spot, you know, it could even be Garnacho who plays there. It could be Shaw, it could be Mazraoui. We just don't know. Whereas I think Dalot is going to become quite integral to the team because he's the most out and out wing back I think they've got in the side. It was a strange substitution because I think it's the first time he hasn't completed 90 in a match he's been available for about 18 months or something ridiculous. So I think he's going to come back in and reclaim that spot. I would pay the extra for him personally. But yeah, again, it's the fixtures. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be investing in a Man U defender right now. Ipswich away is you know, I know that their attacking data isn't great, but they've got their tails up. I think they might score in that match. And then it's a bit tough after that. I think I'd wait.
Arsenal pairing, Calafiori, Timber. I mean, Calafiori rumoured to be back. Well, not rumoured, it's confirmed he's back training and could be considered for the Forest game. And he's fourth in this table because he does get forward. Got that goal at Man City, of course. He is a threat at set plays. 5.8. I guess you'd still go Saliba at 6, wouldn't you, if you were going to go a second Arsenal defender?
Yeah, or Timber's picking up a bit of interest, isn't he, as well? Now Ben White's out. Yeah, maybe Timber just because he's a little bit cheaper. I don't really trust Calafiori. I think the injuries have come quite frequently for him already, and I think, you know, if he's going to have one of those kind of injury hit seasons where you never really know if he's going to start or not, it's not the best. At least Timber, he's getting a run of games. I know he had that injury that was quite bad, but you know, he seems to have recovered well from that. I still think Gabriel and Saliba are the ones to go for. I still pay that little bit extra for that safety blanket. I mean, I've got Gabriel and Raya, and I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah. And just finally, the jukebox says Kadioglu. I know Kadioglu's got an injury at the moment. We don't think it's long term though. But Estupiñán's in there along with Kadioglu, and Brighton's fixtures do really pick up very soon. They're fourth on the long term ticker. I wouldn't say Bournemouth away was a good fixture. Southampton at home, Fulham, Leicester, Palace, West Ham, Brentford. That's a very good run from 13. A Brighton defender?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's Kadioglu. I think obviously he scored that goal when he was playing at the right wing. Minte's back now. Can't see that ever happening again. There's always going to be worries around whether he's going to start with Veltman and Estupiñán left and right. I think you just play it safe and you go for Van Heck. If you're going to invest in Brighton, you get Van Heck in defence. He's got a bit of attacking threat. He gets forward. He's got an assist already. Or you get Verbruggen in goal. I like Verbruggen. If I was picking a goalkeeper in a wild card, I'd be picking Verbruggen.
Okay, interesting. Let's look at midfielders. This is again last year's game weeks, and interesting that Savio goes to the top there. I think the issue with him is obviously the starts. He's only had 3 starts in the last 6 game weeks, but come out at 1.06. I think he's never going to be an option for us, I don't believe. I mean, he might be in a double game week if we're assured of his starts, but there's too many options there, isn't there, with Grealish, Doku. Foden could possibly play out wide, or we're led to believe that that's not going to happen. But with De Bruyne back now, where is Foden going to fit in? So we could well see Foden being used wide in some games as well. I don't think Savio's an option. But then we go Sarabia, who's back in the Wolves team, only got 2 starts, so it's a small sample. Kudos, who's suspended, so not a factor. And then we're into Palmer and Foden. Quite surprising to see Foden up there, but I guess not. We've seen with the eye test him miss a lot of chances recently. 0.75 to Palmer's 0.76. Makes it more painful for you, doesn't it?
Incredibly painful. I think that the Southampton one was the most painful. I think he created like 4 big chances or something in that game. He had a shot that just wide. He's looked all right. I think there's something obviously not right with him. He started the season not fit. He obviously had such a poor tournament for England. He didn't get his place straight back in the side. Maybe he's almost trying a bit too hard or something like that. But yeah, it's really. I mean, you look at all these players on this list, and so often XGR non-penalty per 90 relates to points per 90. And you look at Foden. I mean, in the top like 20 players, he's the lowest points per 90, but yet he's effectively second on XGI per 90 in terms of players you'd actually consider who've been playing fairly regularly. So yeah, it's been really disappointing, and I don't think he's going to be able to compete with the other options around 10 million. So yeah, I'll be getting rid reluctantly next week. Well, not even reluctantly, I'll be getting rid next week. But I could keep saying, going to give him one more week.
Saka's numbers are outstanding here. He's in the top 10 for everything: touches in the box, shots per 90, shots in the box per 90, chance created per 90, and XGI non-penalty per 90 0.63. Very soon, we've got to look again at Saka, haven't we? Where all the talk at the moment is about how we get Palmer in, how we get Salah in. Saka's playing second fiddle because of the fixtures, but when they turn, the data's always been there for him.
Well, my transfers are very much with getting Saka in mind next week. So when we talk a bit about my moves, that is the play for me. I mean, for you with Haaland and Salah, you're going to find it hard, I think, to get either Saka or Palmer, let alone both. Yeah. So you're probably going to have to pick one, and even that is going to require some surgery, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I there's no way I can have them both, and I may not be able to get to even one of them. It may be that I have to just go with Salah. And I mean, again, with Salah and Haaland, you've probably got the captaincy covered. There's no doubt, though, in any given game week, Saka and Palmer can do damage, as this data shows. These two are right up there, and they're above Salah. Salah in 14th over the last 6, 0.54. Yeah. So despite having 7 returns, his XGI on penalty hasn't been in the top 10.
Can he just stop? Can he just regress back to where this data, under Andreas Pereira? That's where I want to see Salah's
crazy,
points.
Isn't it? Yeah. But I mean, that is it, though, isn't it? Perhaps he's turned into a player where he doesn't need to be in the top 3 or 4 for XG to get returns. Perhaps that is the case. I mean, we've seen it from Son before. Son's up there here, but he's had seasons where he's been absolutely prolific, and yet he's massively outperformed his XG. And perhaps Salah is heading that way. Interesting, you mentioned Rodgers. He's been in the season data. I don't think Rodgers has been. No, he's down in 41st for the season data, 0.41. But if you look at the last 6, he goes up to 0.51, which ranks him 16th. So Rodgers is definitely coming to the fore, and I do kind of sense that there's a bit of a shift between him and Watkins. I think that at the start of the season, obviously we were all backing Watkins and he was the more powerful FBL asset. But the matches that I've seen recently, the ball carrying ability that Rodgers offers and some of the the pace and power he brings, I think it's more than rivaling Watkins now, eye test wise, and the data certainly suggests as much.
And I think Watkins is. I've owned Watkins as well this season. Another one I can add to. He did okay for me. He got a goal against Fulham and scored a few others, but he's had one-on-one opportunities and not taken them against Spurs. Yeah. He had a great opportunity and didn't take it. And then obviously he's got the 60 minutes where he's getting subbed, and I do worry a little bit about his fitness. And I think you're right. If I'm looking at Villa and I'm looking at, forget about price, forget about everything else, who is the most influential player in that team? You take away Duran off the bench as he's been doing so well. I just think Rodgers has gone up so many gears in that side. He just needs to add that final bit to his game, doesn't he? He needs to just put the ball in the back of the net. That classic thing. It's the hardest thing to do in football. But if he can start scoring goals regularly, like if he can get to 11, 12 goals or something this season, he's got to be a big factor in Tuchel's thinking for the England squad, because he offers so much. I wonder
whether he's got that game in him where he just breaks out. He gets a double-figure return, or he gets a couple of goals and an assist. I just wonder whether that's there and in the offing, because I'm seeing him getting stronger, and the data certainly suggests as much as well. Interesting, Bruno down here in 38th, 0.36, although he got the return last week, and although that he has been under-delivering in terms of what we've seen with the eyes test. His XGI non-penalty isn't stellar. It's not in the top 30. So the data doesn't necessarily scream you've got to get him. It's really the next two fixtures, and also the prospect of what Amorim will do to unlock him even more. In Mbumo's interest as well, he's right down in 45th over the last 6, and these fixtures get tougher. Of all the players outperforming XG, he's the highest. I think he's outperformed XG more than any other player so far this season. And with the tougher fixtures, if we're going to get Bruno in, would you sacrifice Mbumo to get him?
Yeah, I mean, if you flick over to the ticker again, because I think Mbumo's got another 2 games, isn't he, where he looks all right. I think it's
Everton, Leicester,
Everton, Leicester. You're going to keep him for those, but then I mean, it's Villa, Newcastle, Chelsea, Forest, Brighton away, Arsenal, then it's Southampton, then it's Man City, Liverpool. I'll be selling him, I think, in and around game week 14, 15. I'll just be looking to take a punt on someone a bit more with better fixtures, maybe going for a Matoma at Brighton, maybe going for, I don't know, it's anyone, like even someone like Odegaard for Arsenal or Neto at Chelsea, just someone a bit different, I think, who's emerged kind of around that time. I could even go down to Semenyo, for example, who I got rid of a few weeks. I can understand the appeal of keeping Mbumo, given he's got penalties and Brighton aren't going to attack unless they're 1-0 up against Fulham for no reason when they put 11 men behind the ball. I can't see that happening again too often, but yeah, I think I'll be selling him around that time. Do you agree? It just feels like he's so highly owned, isn't he? It's just a reason to go against him and punt on something a bit different.
And it's not a massive reach to go from Mbumo to Bruno either. So you're more or less in the same bracket, and you're getting a penalty taker and an influential player. You would think in a better team, although the way Brentford are playing, they have to score a couple of goals to stand any chance in any game at the moment. I mean, we saw Brentford at Fulham shut up shop and be absolutely offered nothing in attacking terms. But at home, they're having to pour goals because they're letting them in at the other end. So it's difficult to say, even with those tough fixtures, whether Mbumo will dry up, because certainly in the home games they've got to score goals. But Newcastle, Forest, Arsenal, City are the home games after the next 2. Now, Newcastle, Forest, Arsenal, City and Liverpool, they're their next 5 home games. They're all tough. Every single one of those teams will be really tough to break down, I would say. Yep. I think you're right. I think it's a sell.
I mean, this has happened to me before, and if Mbumo goes and scores back-to-back braces, and we're all selling him, I've had warning signs of this so often. I remember selling Igalo at Watford. I think he was literally scoring every week, and he had a fixture run which was something like Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, like all back-to-back. And I was like, oh, everyone's got him. This is the time to get off him. Carried on scoring like throughout that period. But that's what we do, isn't it? We look for ways to get around EO, and there are going to be people that keep him, and we just got to hope that he blanks. I'd be very surprised if I kept him through that run.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the home form for Brentford. They've been terrible away, and I look at those 5 home games and think that is really tough for him to keep pace, given that what we're seeing from the XG data, he's already overperforming. I think it's a sell.
Yep.
FPL Nightmare, just bring attention to FPL Nightmare because it's an excellent channel. You love this guy and what he's doing as well.
I love it so much.
So shout out to FPL Nightmare. First of all, go and subscribe, go and watch his stuff because it's really cool. It's a new approach and I love something new. Would you sacrifice in Boomer for Isak? Yeah, absolutely. I think you would. I mean, it's just getting through these next 2 though, isn't it? Would you do it when it's Everton Leicester? That's the tough one.
I mean, not endorsing using recreational drugs, but psychedelically, FPL Nightmare's content really is the best out there. So if you want to experience what it's like to take psychedelics without actually taking them, then just watch some of FPL Nightmare's space background content. What was the question?
Would you sell Mbeumo in order to get the money to get Isak?
What now this week? No, not with those 2 games. Not with Everton and Leicester.
Yeah, it's just that Leicester fixture at home, isn't it? That's the one. And they're so strong at home. Yeah, no, I think I'll probably hold on. No question, though, Isak is a priority. I don't blame you for looking at that. Let's move to forwards, actually, talking of Isak. And this is why he's a priority, because over the last 6 game weeks, he is second for XG and on-penalty per 90 to Mr. Haaland. Haaland coming in with 0.92. Isak 0.86.
0.92.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's 0.98 over the season, I believe, Haaland. Yeah, 0.98. So he's over the season, he's some 0.22 ahead of the next player, which is Wissa. Solanke 0.69. There's a big gap between Haaland and the rest over the season. But Isak has closed it recently, and we've seen him with 4 starts and he's got 4 returns. And I said it today, just for me, what he's doing outside the box is impressing me. And that for me just signals this is the time to get on him. We've talked about Newcastle. They've got decent fixtures. They're 4th on that long-term ticker. It's coming together. I think West Ham is a fixture that it's on telly on a Monday night. It's going to be horrible if you don't have him, isn't it?
It's really frustrating, a player like Isak, when I know he's going to do well. Like, I want him. He's like he's my number 1 target. If I was to pick any player to own or to bring in this week, it would be him. Okay, maybe Salah, obviously, but Isak at home to West Ham just looks so good. But because I've got these other issues in Trent and in Garnacho and in Foden, I've got to kind of prioritise getting rid of the weaker links first. And as much as I don't think, if I'm comparing Isak versus Solanke, I'm sure Isak is going to outscore Solanke going forward. But if I move Solanke up to Isak, that blocks me from doing Garnacho to Saka. So, you know what it's like when you're planning all your moves and looking at all the things and stuff and trying to work out what you're going to do. And it's annoying because I know Isak's going to do well, and I see him in people's teams and I think, yeah, he's so obvious, but we're overthinkers and we're trying to move all the different pieces around to create this kind of perfect team. And I just know I'm going to regret not getting him, but I just don't think I am. I was all set to, but I just don't think it's going to happen now.
I mean, West Ham.
He's going to do well against West Ham.
Yeah,
sure.
West Ham are in a lot of trouble. I mean, they've got good players and they have the semblance of a good team, but the spirit is just gone. I mean, if Newcastle get an early goal, that could be an avalanche. It could be 4 or 5 because West Ham at Forest, we should have put 5 past them because they gave up. I mean, they were down to 10 men. They really struggle for pace at the back, and they're up against Gordon. Probably will be Willock on the other side. I don't think they'll play Barnes, will they? They'll play unless they do play Gordon on the opposite side and play Barnes on the left.
He hasn't been starting recently, so.
Sorry, what was that?
He hasn't been starting recently, has he, Barnes?
No,
Barnes.
He
had a bit of a spell, but
no.
Willock played well, so he's probably in.
But they've got pace up front in Isak, of course, and West Ham, I don't think will cope with it. And the intensity that Newcastle will bring, I don't think they'll live with that. So it really depends on how early the first goal comes as to how much damage Isak does. It could just be a 1 or 2-0 when he gets a goal or assist, rather. But it could be a 4 or 5-0 if West Ham's heads drop. And Newcastle are looking for blood. I think they're looking to build on that victory at Forest and looking for a big win. I think it could come.
And it's a Monday night as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I've
going
got
to
to
be
watch
horrible.
it on a Monday night. It's going to be awful watching that. I mean, you're more complimentary than on West Ham than I am. I don't particularly like their squad. I think they've got a couple of good players, but I just don't really rate them that well. And my old mate Lopetegui is floundering and getting he's really struggling. And selfishly looking at West Ham options, looking at someone like Bowen, I don't want him in charge when West Ham's fixtures turn, because that could be an Mbumo out move potentially to Bowen if they look a bit better. But I'm not going near any of their players while he's in charge, because it's going to be a dramatic turnaround if he manages to get this team functioning, because they're not at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Callum Wilson's getting a mention as if that's a threat to his. I just don't see it.
No way.
I mean, yeah, it might take some minutes off him, but there's no way he's starting. Absolutely no way he's starting. I mean, yeah, he'll be leaving the club, I imagine, in the summer. I think he will take some minutes. He's unquestionably the starter, even when Wilson's fit. I just don't see any other way there. Watkins here is 0.46. Let's go and remind ourselves where Rodgers was. Rodgers coming in 0.51. Yes, I was right. So actually, Rodgers' XG on penalty has been greater than Watkins over the last 6. That's what we've seen. It's kind of seen that way. So it's good that the data endorses what we've seen with the eye test. The Watkins drops down to the 11th here. Evan Nielsen, we didn't talk about him today on the FBL show. 5.9. Their fixtures are absolutely outstanding in the short term. Let's just bring that up for Bournemouth. Actually, let's go to the long-term ticker because it's a longer run. I think the spell I'm looking at is from Gameweek 15. And they do have, Brighton at home won't be easy. Wolves away, they should get goals there. Probably will get goals against Spurs at home as well. But then it's Ipswich, West Ham, United, Palace. Obviously, United away could be tough. But there's a lot of blue on that ticker for Bournemouth. And I've got Semenyo. There's no way I'm going to sell him. No question that Semenyo, for me, is their big goal threat. But Evan Nielsen is really starting to creep up in the reckoning. And along with Visser and along with João Pedro, got to be in the running, hasn't he, for a budget forward?
I like him, and he's taken him a little bit of time to adjust to Premier League, fair enough, but he missed that penalty, didn't he? And it was like, oh no, he really needed that kind of confidence boost. But he's definitely growing into the side. And Bournemouth, I mean, looking at the fixtures this week, when we talk about predictions, Bournemouth and Brighton is a really hard game to call, because it's two teams in good form. Bournemouth at home look really, really strong. I trust them a lot more at home than I do away, a bit like Newcastle in that regard. And actually, at 5.9, when you're comparing him to Raul Jimenez, who's obviously got competition there with Muniz, with Strand Larsen, where I think Kuna is by far the better option out of those two. I think actually Evan Nielsen is massively being underlooked and going under the radar. So I don't hate that move at all if you're trying to free up funds for the midfield. Good pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, you picked out Kuna today. He's down in 17th here, 0.41. Interesting. Big chance per 90, none. He's had no big chances in the last 6. All of his goals that he has scored has been, some of the goals have been worldies, haven't they? He doesn't, he can get goals without easy chances for sure. Shots per 90 is in the top 10. The reason why I didn't have him in there, and the reason why I'm edging towards Evan Nielsen over Kuna a little bit. There is obviously a big difference in price, almost $1 million, so that really helps now. Wolves aren't a great team. Kuna is somewhat carrying them, and it's unquestionably he is the talisman. But you still rate him, would you? When it comes to João Pedro or Kuna, you would go Kuna, would you? They both got penalties, both, similar level of player, I would say. But I would say that João Pedro's in a better team.
Yeah, but he's much less secure in terms of those minutes, given the fact that there's O'Reilly there, who you love, obviously, the fact that Welbeck's been in such good form. And the fact, Pedro's had this injury, isn't he? And I think it's clear that he does need his minutes managed, because he's not a 90-man a week player, João Pedro. He doesn't just seem to really have the legs for it. He seems to pick up these little injuries and be out for a while. So with the squad we've got, I expect him to start the majority of games, but I also expect him to be rotated around a fair bit. I mean, what these tables doesn't show is the assist potential of Kuna as well, which I think massively adds to it, because he is almost like the chief creator in that side as well. And what I love about him is because he does so well on the BPS, when he gets an assist, he's still in the reckoning for bonus points, which you don't get from many other forwards in that side too, because of the amount of chances he creates and his passing ability. and the way he plays. I just really, really like him as a player as well. I don't particularly like Wolves as much as a team going forward when I watch them play, but he's just the jewel in the crown, isn't he? And I think this will be his last season there because I think he'll get a good move at the end.
I just look at the fixtures. Fulham and Bournemouth aren't easy for them. And then Everton, West Ham are teams they can definitely score against, and Ipswich certainly is. Ipswich, Leicester, that's where you want. It's West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester. 15, 16, 17 is where you really want to get on Kuno, I think, because those three defences are going to give Wolves chances, and I would be shocked if Kuno doesn't come out with 3, 4, maybe 5 returns out of those 3 games. So that's where you want him. Fulham, Bournemouth, not easy games, and Goodison Park can be tough as well when Dyche fancies it.
Bournemouth
I
at
don't
home.
think there's any hurry if you don't have him.
The fact Bournemouth are away in that game, I think ups it a little bit.
Maybe
I'm more than happy to. I mean, I bought him in ahead of Southampton at home, so I'm happy with that. Would I buy him this week? I think you're probably right. I might want to wait a few weeks, but he's not going anywhere for the foreseeable. Great, I still think he can do well in these. My
point, João Pedro at home to Southampton in 13. Like I'm thinking if I'm going to sell Haaland to get Palmer, it'll be next week. It'll be game week 13. Surely I've got to go João Pedro at home to Southampton, haven't I?
And it's the Friday night game, so you're going to get the lineup. You're going to know whether he's in the side as well. I'd imagine. If he is,
don't say that as if I get some secret information.
When you get your little call,
right. We as a group, as FPL managers, might get that information.
When the cartel flashes.
The cartel alarm.
The neon sign. When that sign goes yellow, that means I'm getting key information. as if I get anything.
But you're absolutely right. We could know whether João Pedro. I mean, we know he likes him, and I think he starts more often than not. And Southampton at home is a plum fixture, and I just prefer him over Kuna for that one. And then Fulham away is not easy, but Leicester and Palace at home, West Ham away, Brentford at home. That's a superb run for Brentford of Brighton, isn't it? There.
I just think, when we go back to black box lessons and we look at everything, the main thing we say is pick nailed on players. And I know Herzl talked him up and said he's like the talisman of the team, but I just don't think he is as nailed on as some of these other assets. And the fixtures are great, and we've just got so many attackers that can start in any week. And until I see him nail down a role in the side, I won't be considering him. And I can see why people are going there. He's a penalty taker. He's 5.5 million. We've got great fixtures. He just scored 11 points in like a 20-minute cameo. I've got no problem with it, but I'm sticking with the nailed on 90 minutes, especially over the festive period.
Harry's saying, has the cartel ever had Brighton news? You tell me, Harry. I have no idea. What Brighton news we can get is, will we get news of Barco starting? Says Av 23.
He might be coming back in January.
Yeah, I know. As is Barco starting this week.
We'll have
his
redemption arc.
Comments coming. If he comes back and gets in the team, not likely, is it? Let's face it. But we love the Barco jokes. Keep them coming. Excellent stuff. Was there anything else on forwards? Last 6 to pick out? Chris Wood. The fixtures, Arsenal, City in the next 3, I just don't see it. I saw in the scout picks, they went Núñez this week. What do you think of that? God. No Jota, of course, so Núñez will start, you'd think.
Again, it's a bit like Dean. It's just never, ever, ever going to be a consideration for me again. I owned him for such long periods of last season, and he just found new ways to miss chances, and he missed when he missed that penalty. Do you remember that? That was like... I was like, come on, I've backed you.
I had him for
so
that
long.
Game. Yeah.
I sold Watkins for him for a hit, and Watkins got a brace, and Darwin blanked. It was just constant pain. Watkins was injured as well, and he just managed to start. No chance. Absolutely no way would I go anywhere near him. He's been all right. I mean, I thought he was, going to be off in January, and he was like completely lost the faith of Slot, but. He's played all right, to be fair, but there's much better options, I think.
Raul Jimenez, 5.8. We haven't really touched on him. I guess we've gone off them a little bit, but Fulham's fixtures, I mean, good short term. You certainly hold him, and arguably he could come good. Wolves at home, former club, of course. But then it's Spurs, Brighton, Arsenal, Liverpool. That really does put me off. That one. Fulham can score in those games, but
game week 13. This is where you do Jimenez to Pedro.
Yeah.
if you've got him. Like that's Pedro in for Southampton at home when Fulham goes and plays Spurs, Brighton, Arsenal, and Liverpool. That's an easy move, I think. Even though I'm saying, I'm kind of playing down expectations on Pedro a bit. If I had Jimenez and I didn't have any money in the bank, I'd be doing that move all day.
Yeah. No, granted. I think you're absolutely right with that.
Everyone's saying about Darwin. That was the game when he hit the post 4 times and missed a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Dina being a troll. Darwin has just outdone him consistently, hasn't he? He's been an incredible player and so tempting as well. In the same way, we're going to do our predictions, but before we do, let's talk about our friends at Sleeper.
Absolutely, yeah. If you've been following BlackBox over the season, you will know Sleeper. I know Trigger Lips is in the chat, and he absolutely loves Sleeper. I'm sure he'll be playing Pick'em this week.
He's got to make a cup of tea now. Look, he's gone. Come back in a minute.
No,
come back in a minute.
Come back in a second.
Nick.
But no, we're really happy to be sponsored by Sleeper. We think this game complements the predictions that we do, and obviously patrons are getting involved in our prediction league on that. And this is another way that you can play along. We've given a PS5 away, we've given a Apple Watch away, and a Google Pixel, I think. So there's some great monthly prizes.
Really enjoying it. Thanks for that. I'm joking.
my PS5 just on the background. What we haven't really talked about too much is the Champions League Pick'em. A game. There's a QR code on the screen, obviously a link in the description as well. It's the same as the regular Pick'em. You pick all the outcomes of the Champions League games, and there's $1,000 prize for I think each match week for that. So if you haven't tried that, give that a go. Zap the code. But obviously the main draw is our BlackBox Pick'em League in the Premier League. Nice transition there, Mark. If you zap the QR code on the screen, if you're not involved in this already, get involved ahead of December, because obviously there's going to be loads of games, more chances to win great prizes, and yeah, the prize for the month will be up to £500. You can choose whatever you want, whatever prize you want, up to £500. So zap the QR code, look at the link in the description, and thanks again, Sleeper, for sponsoring BlackBox this season.
It's an absolutely no-brainer. Trigger did put the kettle on. Let's look at our prediction league, and I'm doing all right. You crept up a bit, but
I had a good week this week. I had
did.
a really, really good week this week. Yeah, I'm catching you up.
Beating you by 4 points, 52%. You're at 50. Everyone's starting to settle at their 50 now, aren't they? Hottine's lost the top spot to Hesmo. He's down at 55, 15% correct scores. So you're giving chase to me there. Unfortunately, we've had to use the old format because I couldn't log in to the this could be big this week, because if you can't log in, you can't update your scores, and then I might overtake you. Because Lee sorted me out of a password, but I just didn't have time to do. Yeah, I just didn't have time to do the graphic before the show. So
be just like you. Have you put them in as well?
No, I'm going to.
There you go. Yeah, so you might forget that.
I might forget. Yeah, you can hope that way.
You're getting a bit old. You're getting a bit.
Yeah, true. How dare you? Me and Trigger will be there to the end. We'll be there in our 80s. You watch. Right, let's go through these. It's difficult to pick a garden centre game out.
Leicester Chelsea, really? I'm surprised you went for that.
Well, I mean, where else do you go for the live games? You're not going to know Man City Spurs. That's got to be a thriller, hasn't it?
I don't think there is one. I'd probably pick Newcastle West Ham, I think, on the Monday night. But
yeah, maybe. But I think that could be. I know you'll want to get to the garden centre because you won't have Isaac, but I don't know. I don't think Leicester Chelsea would be that good. I think the 12:30 games, everyone's a bit leggy. International break. Leicester will play low block, I think. I don't think it'll be a thriller. You've gone 3-1 Chelsea, I've gone 2-1. So we are predicting some goals there.
Yeah, I mean, you're just saying that because you're not going to have Palmer, whereas I am. So I'm back in the goals.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. Maybe. I mean, Chelsea, attacking-wise, we've seen the data. That very impressive right up there. But I think Cooper will set them out. Like I say, low block, try and catch them. I think they'll be hard to break down. Leicester have got injuries. Buonanotte can't play, can he? So, yeah, Chelsea could exploit that.
And Fatawu's now out, isn't he, for the season? He's done his ACL or something like that. It's a real shame. He's looked really good in the games I've seen him play. Just losing bodies, and it's just not a great time to play him. The
thing is, though, those injuries aren't necessarily defensive injuries.
No.
So I think, if anything, that's more likely to make Cuba go, right, let's just get behind the ball, right? Because we haven't got.
It's an out ball, though, isn't it? And it's confidence and a bit of threat. I don't know. You kind of look at your team and think, oh God, we've got what's his name playing, and not Fatawu, you might be a bit. I think Vardy's out as well, isn't he? Might be Daka up top, and he's been bloody awful.
Yeah, this is it though. I just think everything conspires to make Cooper think, well, let's just set our stall out for a point rather than go out to try and nick something. But we'll see. Arsenal Forest, you've gone 2-0, I've gone 2-1. I don't think I can argue with that. I think we might get a goal. I think we might have it at 1-1 for a while, but I just think Arsenal will have too much for us. Saka, we don't know if he's going to be fit. Late fitness test, we believe.
He'll play.
You don't believe a word of that, do you?
No, not even slightly. Late fitness test, yeah, right.
But he's been in none of the pictures for training now, so unless Arteta's playing silly games, and you know,
of course he is. Of course he is. They'll all play. All the players that were doubts. Foden, your Saka, your Palmer, your Semenyo. You know, all of those international players doubt players will play. I've got no doubt.
This is what I was saying about. You remember when I said about Mourinho influencing his media team, and you know what was that about? I can't remember what it was about. It was about Haaland, wasn't it?
It was about Pep and Haaland, yeah.
Yeah. There is no question that Arteta influences his media team. He must tell that team, do not have any images in their stories with Saka in it. And what worries me a bit is how long before all the other managers go, you know what?
No.
I'm going to start doing that as well. That'll be murder, wouldn't it? If that
I think it's gonna happen.
Do you?
I think the days of like Postecoglou, you know, giving all the information we need is going to be much rarer than it is now, because we already get it with like Deitch and Howe and stuff, don't we? The knocks and diggles and who's here and who's there, but we haven't seen this level of like cover up before. And Zinchenko's talked about in his book, isn't he? He said like he would tell injured players to like hide, you know, when coming off the bus and hide their faces and create that kind of mystique around it. Guaranteed more managers will adopt it.
Yeah, so he's fit and he'll play. I don't know if well, we'll see. I don't think it's an easy game for Arsenal. I don't think Saka's going to run right. We'll double team him with Anderson and Moreno for sure. So I think the goals will probably come elsewhere. And Odegaard's back to share the creativity as well. Villa Palace, maybe I've gone heavy here, but I just don't think Palace are in a great shape. Maybe Villa aren't going to score 3 goals. They're not as fluid as I said earlier. You've gone 2-0, I've gone 3-0. I don't think there's anything other than a home win here, though.
No, Palace, good time to play Palace. Injuries and losing Elise is one thing. Losing Eze as well was another thing. Losing Wharton as well. I don't think he's back, is he? I didn't see. I can't remember.
He's got an ongoing groin problem, so I don't know whether they've done the op over the break or not.
They could get pulled into like a relegation battle. Palace wouldn't surprise me, given the injuries they've got.
The home form needs to pick up really to keep them in it, I think. So Dean, a clean sheet, you agree? Okay, thank you for that. There you go.
Yeah. It all looks good. Brighton, it means it won't be.
Yeah. Bournemouth, Brighton, he's off on 59 minutes for Maatson. Bournemouth versus Brighton, 1-1. Yeah, you said, isn't it? This is probably one of the toughest games to call. We've both gone a 1-1 draw. It's hard to come down on either side, I think, and put a win on this one.
I'd take a point, you know. I'd take a point.
Tough place to go.
Away at Bournemouth. Really tough. Yeah. And obviously it's got the South Coast kind of rivalry to it too. Be really interesting to see O'Reilly in the team. I thought Hertz's comments about him not being bought for the bench were really telling. And, you know, he could emerge as a 5-5 option depending on where he gets played in the side. Very attacking player. Already scored a goal. I mean, imagine that. Like, basically his debut. I know he came on for a few minutes in the cup, but kind of came off the bench and scores against Man City. Amazing stuff. So looking forward to seeing him 5-5. One to watch.
Okay. Everton Brentford, we both gone 2-1, away win for Brentford. Yeah. I think they'll just have that little bit too much for them. Everton will score from a set piece because Brentford, believe it or not, are a bit susceptible defensively to set pieces, but they've got plenty at the other end to threaten. Wissa and Bumo look very sharp, Wissa in particular. So I suspect they're going to nick this one as well. Fulham Wolves, we've both gone 2-1. You've gone 2-1, I've gone 2-0. I just think Fulham defence is strong. See, you've gone 2-1 there because you've got Kuna. So
absolutely, that's the only reason. Yeah, sorry for the bias, but
Man City Spurs, we've both gone 3 goals for Man City and Spurs to score. You reckon it'd be 3-1, I reckon 3-2. I can't see it being anything other than an entertaining game full of goals, right?
I've got 3 attackers in this game. So I really need this to be a higher scoring game. Not only have I got 3 attackers in this game, I haven't got any players on Sunday at all. So I've got Southampton, Liverpool, and Ipswich, Man U with all these Salahs and Fernandezes and all these players, and just don't have any of them. So if Man City Spurs is a draw, like drab 1-0,
A 1-1.
1-1 or something, Nunez goal, and I don't know, Dragusin header, I'm finished. I'll know what my rank is going to be by the end of Saturday. So tomorrow is a big day for me.
I just don't see it though. I mean, like City can't drop more points. They've lost 4 in a row. They've got to go for the win, and I think Spurs are so dangerous they can't go 1-0 up and manage it out. They have to get a 2-goal advantage over Spurs to make sure the points. So that means I think they've got to score at least 3 goals to win this game, because I do think Spurs will nick one. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I really hope that Pip hasn't booked us for some late night shopping on Saturday evening and not told me.
I'm just to spite you because you've been away all week.
Yeah, you're going to text her now, aren't you? Just make sure Pip come up with something at 5:30.
We do talk about you a lot, so
yeah, of course. Well, the 2 wives. Southampton versus Liverpool, 3-0. Both feel 3-0.
Oh my God!
You got to hate. You're not having Salah and you're going 3-0 Liverpool. He's been involved in 67% of their goals.
This is the garden centre game for me, because I would rather be anywhere on earth than watching this game on Sunday. I'm just gonna turn my phone off, check the score at the end of the match, and if he's got 3 or 4 goals, that's it, isn't it?
Well, if it is 3-0, the data says that Salah will come out with at least 2 returns. So that's going to be another double figure, isn't it? Basically.
My only hope is that they can get a couple of goals early, maybe like a Darwin and a Konate header, and he gets subbed off at 65 minutes because they've got Madrid and City.
Yeah.
Yes, that is I'm clinging on to that.
That could happen. Yeah.
More
maybe
realistically, they're 3-0 up and he's got all 3.
Yeah, could happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely could do. I mean, Southampton will have possession, as Greg Foss points out here. There's no question. But my worry is they've made 15 defensive errors, and 6 of those have led to goals. That's the most in the division by far. I think the next team have made 11 defensive errors. So, predictably, what they'll try and do is play possession football, play around at the back, and there's no team in the land better at high press than Liverpool, really, arguably, anyway. So, if that's what Slot tries to do, which I imagine.
The thing is they tried it against City, didn't they? And I know they only lost 1-0, but Haaland had so many chances in that game, and they could have lost that 5-0. And then, I'm not clinging to that. There's absolutely no way Southampton don't concede at least a couple against Liverpool. They're so good, but I've just got to hope it gets shed out a bit more than it has been.
Salah has had 2 weeks off, so the talk of him being rested, there's no chance he won't start the game. It's just, will they get a comfortable lead and then take him off? Which could happen.
Have you seen Yelena's message in the chat? We're going out with one of her friends and her fiance, and they've booked a table at Belushi's to watch the Liverpool game.
That's the comment of the night. That's absolutely amazing. I'm going to star that comment so we can bring it back later. I'm going to text you during that game. Can you film that as well, Yelena, for your blog, please?
Although I'm happy we're going to Belushi's. I do love Belushi's, so that's nice.
Yeah, well, hopefully the food's lovely. You don't choke on it.
I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to be such bad company.
Ipswich United, you've gone 2-1 United, I've gone 1-1. I'm being more cautious here. I think McKenna will really have his team up for it, and Amorim will want the win. But, how much can he do in the time he's had so far? It is a little bit square pegs in round holes for the moment. It will be for a few weeks until he gets more time with that team. 2-1 you've gone for. I can see why you're doing that. But
that's the only outcome we've gone that's different. How about that? It's the only one.
Is it really? There you go.
So if Man U beat Ipswich, then I'm going to claw a bit more on you this week.
We're hanging around too much, aren't we? And we've agreed on the scoreline Monday night as well. Newcastle clean sheet 3-0.
Yeah, the thing is, I was talking about these with Sam on the Q&A earlier. I do think on paper this is quite an easy week to predict. Yeah, I think the tough ones maybe are the Bournemouth, Brighton, the Everton, Brentford, because I think they're all kind of similarly matched. But the rest of them, I think, should be wins for the favoured teams. You would have thought, but it always 50% is what happens, and you wouldn't be surprised there's to be some shocks.
So you're not going to have Salah and you're not going to have Isak, and you're predicting a 3-0 win for Newcastle and a 3-0 win for Liverpool.
It's not just about this week, Mark.
If your predictions come true, you are going to really struggle to get a green arrow, I would have said. Because if Liverpool get 3 and Newcastle get 3 and Isak and Salah don't haul, I'd be very surprised. So
I'm going to struggle to get a green arrow. My season rests on the shoulders of Phil Foden, who's done absolutely nothing for me all year, and Haaland, who has forgotten how to put the ball in the net.
Shout out for Yellen's Vlog, by the way, Greg talking it up, and also FBL Yellow Army. Yeah, I mean, you've got to watch. If you've never watched it before, make sure you catch this week's episode with footage from Az watching Liverpool at Belushi's, because that promises to be a treat for us all.
We're also doing. I'm not sure it's going to be in the vlog, but we're also doing. Have you seen Hot Ones? The YouTube.
Yeah, you're
series?
going to do that, are you?
Yeah, we've bought the 10 sauces that they use in Hot Ones, so we're going to do like an FPL themed Hot Ones vlog. I tried the number one sauce, which is the weakest. It's 1,000 Scovilles. So I don't really know what a Scoville is, but it's 1,000 Scovilles. And I had some, and I was like, oh, that I can feel that. Guess how much the top one is? Number 10. Guess how many Scovilles that is?
100,000. I don't know.
700,000.
Yeah, that's gonna put you in a lot of trouble, as that is.
I can't handle spice. I can't handle spice. So that's going to be fun.
Oh dear. FPL's life. Yeah, sorry I didn't do a Let's Walk last week. The weather conspired, and obviously I had the business trip as well. So that will be back this weekend. I'll try and get the new camera out and see what I can do with that as well. They will be back this week. Okay, I think it's on to the captains next. I'm trying to remind myself now. I'm losing my thread a bit. We've done the predictions. It is the captains. We've got last 6 data now in here, as well as the season data. And we've said Haaland 0.98 XGI on penalty per 90 and 0.92 over the last 6 as well. There's a whole cast of players here, isn't there? Because, Salah and Haaland probably are the standouts, but arguably you could look at Palmer, arguably you could look at Isak, and you could possibly go Bruno as well. I don't think it's if you don't have Salah, I think it's very tight then. But you would just go straight to Haaland, would you, if you don't have Salah?
Well, this is it. I think this is the reason why. I know we laugh and we have a joke on here, don't we, about my decisions and everything like that. But just a bit of banter and all that. But I think the reason why I am willing to go without Salah is because we have these other captaincy options. If it was, say it was like Arsenal v Man City this week, and Palmer had an away game at, I don't know, Forest away or something like that, and Salah had Southampton, I would be, doing whatever I could to bring in Salah and captain him. But even if I had Salah with the injuries in Spurs, I think I'd still be captaining Haaland.
Do you?
Over him, which is what makes me think, do I need to rip my team up for Salah when I can get in Palmer much easier, have extra funds to bring in Saka next week? Whereas if I bring in Salah, I'm going to struggle with that Garnacho spot to really know what to do. I'm going to be taking a punt on like a Matoma or a Bowen or someone like that. I'd rather just move him up to Saka, who I want in the medium term. So that's the reasoning for it, because it's really tight. I mean, even if you don't have Haaland, I look at Isak at West Ham at home and think that is a great fixture. He could easily get a hat-trick in that game and no one would be surprised.
I think there'll be a lot of points about, and yeah, the Haaland thing is very interesting, because I didn't have the Romero news this morning, and I said in chat on the WhatsApp group, not the cartel one, the other one, the one that's okay. I was saying that the Romero news made me think he really seriously about Haaland over Salah. Luke's not having it. He doesn't put too much stock in absentees. I do think when it's key defenders though, when you've got a defensive linchpin missing. I mean, people talked about Konsa earlier, about can Villa keep a clean sheet, about Konsa. I don't think Konsa's as vital to Villa as Romero is to Spurs, particularly when they're having to deal with Haaland. I do think when you take Van de Ven and Romero out, it's got to have some impact when you're up against the best striker in the world. So I don't think there's too much wrong in thinking that's going to increase Haaland's chances of returns. But I do get Luke's point. I mean, most of the time we do over-index on, they've got this player missing, so they're going to concede 2 or 3 more goals. But in this case, I think it's hard to not think that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when you've got like an attacking team like Spurs and you take away the 2 key parts of the defence in the way they have done, you've got to think, okay, well, They're going to carry on playing that same style, but they're not going to have that protection in the way that maybe, if you've got like a defensively minded team and you take out one of their centre-backs and you bring in another centre-back in and they're still playing that system to not concede, you could argue it's just a body, isn't it? And they're going to, but it's not just a body with them. They need to do so much more in the game. And I don't particularly rate Dragusin that much. I don't think he's ever going to break into the first team there. I think he's going to end up sold and go to France or something like that, probably a few years down the line. And Ben Davies, I mean, fair play to him. He's playing at centre-back. He plays for Wales. He is a good player, but he's not a Romero. He's not like a top 6 centre-back, is he? You wouldn't want him starting at Forest, for example. I wouldn't want him starting for me at Brighton. And those two, and now they haven't got Bentancur as well because he's out for 7 games. Like, there's no real protection. I mean, I guess Basuma comes in and he is obviously a brilliant player. I know him well from Brighton, but they are massively weakened without those 3. And I think it's a bad time to play City.
Yeah,
they're going to bounce back.
They're not strong at fullback defensively, are they? Udogie and Porro in particular, very good going forward. Udogie can get caught out. So if City play with 2 wide men, I guess Savio's going to be one. Who knows who will play on the other side, but yeah, the width will cause them problems, as well as physicality of Haaland in the middle. Dragusin will try and deal with it, but I don't trust his concentration levels. I think, it's too much. I mean, a couple of comments there, Social Hermit saying, James says, Captain Haaland, that is, of course, James and Planet FBL. But also Greg Foss mentions here, post-international break, the results are a bit weird. Yeah, that is true. So sometimes we do presume this will happen and this will happen based on the form we've seen. But after an international break, for some reason, obviously because of the travel, we don't sometimes get the outcomes we expect. So maybe, just maybe, there could be something in that. Yeah.
I mean, I want to see De Bruyne for City. If I know he's been out for a while, but if we see Man City line up with De Bruyne and Foden in the side and maybe Savio on the left, they're going to get chances, I'm sure, against that Spurs back line.
Yeah. Some counter opinions. Nikolai saying Romero's overrated, bang average, doesn't know how to. That is true.
That's harsh. I think
physically he is an imposing front foot defender who will go toe to toe with Haaland, and I don't know, they'll miss that. I think they'll just miss his physicality, and but I like Romero as a defender. I think he's very old fashioned, but.
And I think he's his biggest problem was obviously his discipline, wasn't it? You always felt like he was going to get red carded. He's taken that side out of his game, and he offers them a lot up front as well now, in the box.
Yeah, he's still got it in.
I think he's matured. I like him. I really like Romero.
So I am still sticking with Salah. I think the 2-week break that he's had will mean that he should get 75-80, and I do think that Liverpool could make a real mess of Southampton. My only concern is, like you say, they will go 2 or 3-0 up and take the foot off, and Salah comes off early, and then I only get like an assist or a goal.
I hope so. God, I hope so.
I think that could be something in it. Haaland could easily run amok if it's an open game, and I think it will be. I'm very happy to have them both. There's no way I'm selling Haaland this week as a result, so I will go without Palmer, I think, and risk that, because I'll have to hope that the early kick-off, Leicester low block, Palmer doesn't find the room that both Haaland and Salah get. And I think I said today on the show, if I'm looking at the rates in those 3, it would be Salah top, Haaland second and Palmer third in terms of what I would expect output to be this week. But it could go anyway, and it's beautiful, isn't it, to have this without even mentioning Isak, without even mentioning Bruno. I think we've got 4 or 5 players who could all hit double-figure returns, and that's going to need a lot of rank shifting, a lot of variation, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, I mentioned the captain, but another reason why I'm happy to go sort of semi against Salah is for Palmer. I think I would back Salah if I'm going to pick one, for like a free hit team. I'd obviously pick Salah out of the 2, but they're both good options. Like, it wouldn't massively surprise you if Palmer got 16 points against Leicester and Salah got 10 or something like that. They're both such elite players. So I just need to hope that Palmer delivers in this week that I bring him in.
Let's look at Rob's data, because I love looking at this. And I've gone over to Blue Sky, by the way. I logged into it for 5 minutes last night. with the account that you set up with the password that I object to. I won't say that loud because I'm not going to do it.
I was about to say tell everyone the password.
Oh dear, classic. I'll never forget that. Brilliant. But the only person I had time to follow because I wanted to look at was Rob T. FBL. So and then Rob, bless him, he messaged me going, "Is this you or is this an imposter?" Because obviously he's like,
yeah, there is the imposter mark. Isn't
I know. There's imposters everywhere. Yeah.
No one made an imposter of me. says a lot, doesn't it?
Someone out there make a blue sky imposter of SP because he feels he's missing out.
You to update these handles on our screen to the blue sky one.
Yeah, we'll have to start doing that. Yeah. This says that Liverpool with 2.65, according to the spread betting markets, are the highest projected goals in the game week with a 42% chance of a clean sheet as well. 2.65 over City, 2.50, Chelsea 2.30. So that bears out my ranking of Liverpool, Salah, City, Haaland, Chelsea, Palmer as the order there. Then they've got Arsenal 2.2 at home to Forest. And then Fulham home to Wolves 1.95. Oh no, it's Newcastle, sorry, on the Monday night. So yeah, I don't think this changes my mind. I think it still cements Salah just about for me over Haaland. Anything from that?
Yeah, I mean, someone put in the chat, not Mr. Twister, not captaining Salah versus Southampton is just overthinking. I think that could well be right. The overthinking there is Spurs without the centre backs and Salah obviously with Madrid in mind. I still think Southampton is the easiest game this season. You've mentioned the mistakes at the back. Liverpool are a brilliant side, and Salah is the best FPL asset of all time. So yeah, there's obviously a lot of good about it. Yeah. I think if I had him, I think in your position I'd be the same. I'd be tempted to go for Haaland, but ultimately I think I would end up with keeping on Salah.
Zohomir Boban's put a super chat in. We have got 5 super chats. We will get some at the end of the show.
Lovely.
But thanks very much for the super chat so far. Captain Matrix, just briefly, extended this out to 25. Yeah, it's interesting. This run is, give and go for Haaland. You could captain him at Palace, I guess. I don't think you want to captain him at Liverpool away. Maybe Villa away, but I just think there are better options. Palmer comes into his own from game week 16, I think. He's got that run of Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich. You really probably need to get onto him there at that point. Salah has batches where you can catch him, certainly Southampton away this week, Everton away, Fulham at home maybe. But I think it does go Salah, Haaland, and then you need to look at Palmer from game week 16 is what this is saying to me. Then later on, it's very interesting. You look at it from game week 18 onwards, and the captaincy could go anywhere, couldn't it? But Haaland does that run of Everton, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, Ipswich. You've got to have Haaland from game week 18, haven't you?
Yeah, I think so, but I think a lot of people won't because I think they're going to find it really hard. Yeah, I think they're going to find it hard. I mentioned Praz, obviously one of my favourite people in the world and an FPL manager, someone I really look up to. But when I look at his team with Palmer, Salah and Saka, I think, well, how is he going to manoeuvre that around to get all the funds out of those and bring them back into Haaland? Who's he going to take out when the fixtures are so good? In 18, there might be the temptation to stick. He's probably got some master. He'll probably end up with all 4 somehow, and he's planned it with some crazy, matrix way of looking at things. But I do think, like you said, I think in 18, people are going to be looking at that run and thinking, oh crap, I haven't got Haaland. And if he does manage to start scoring again, which I'm sure he will over the next few weeks, we're going to see some worried people. They're feeling the same about Haaland as I do about Salah this week.
Yeah, I mean, the second wildcard comes in at 20, I think, but not in time for 18. What you can do, though, is put yourself in a situation where you can store transfers and take 4 or 5 into 18. That will be difficult unless you can max out your bench. Because if you're going into Christmas
said than done, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're going into Christmas with 1 active player on your bench, you're in trouble, I think. This is the period of the year where trying to get more active players available to you on the bench is worthwhile, which leads nicely into our transfers, I believe. Let's look at your game week first. Talk us through it for the podcast.
Yeah, I've been really stressed this international break, trying to work out what to do, and my plans initially were to do Foden and Solanke to Palmer and Isak for a hit. I've only got one transfer. The more I think about it, the more I think I need to deal with my three main issues. And my three main issues are Trent, obviously, who's injured now for a while. Garnacho, who I don't think is going to play at the weekend. I don't think he's going to start. He's been away with Argentina. I don't see where he fits into that system. It's two great fixtures, but I think he is a problem and he needs to play. And Foden. And this is a long-winded speech, but I think Foden is now maybe less of a problem compared to the other two, given the injuries that Spurs have. So I thought, okay, if I'm dealing with Trent and Garnacho, what can I do here? And I can do Trent to Hall, which I've already done. That move's done because Trent's going down again tonight. And then Garnacho's gone up to Palmer, or will be going up to Palmer next week. And then that leaves me the exact funds to do Foden to Saka going into West Ham away.
What, so you're only making one transfer this week?
No, two. So it's Trent to Hall and then Garnacho to Palmer.
You are getting Palmer, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to wait try and get the lineup, because it's the early game, isn't it? So I'll wait to see if he's definitely starting. I'm sure he will start.
There you go again. Talks of getting the lineup in the early game.
Getting the lineup. Well, I mean, on X or through the normal channels, not through anything sinister or anything like that. If I don't hear anything, I'll probably still do it. I'm sure Palmer will start. He's been training and everything. But I just think Trent to Hall and Garnacho to Palmer. Surely they're good moves, right? Surely they're not going to backfire.
No, I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong with that because I don't think either start. Trent will be out. I think you'll get good outcomes in those two transfers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Foden gets one more week. He might not play. He might be benched. Maybe De Bruyne comes in and Foden gets benched, but he'll get some minutes. And I'd rather keep Foden than Garnacho because I'm like 90% sure Garnacho isn't going to start, and I'm like 60% sure Foden will start. So I think they're the moves. Daddy
in the chat saying that where Super Troopers are still going, it is just gone midnight. There were 1,783 people watching this live.
Amazing.
On a Friday. Just shows you, doesn't it, on a Friday night that what we're thinking about it's because of the international break.
You
I
must
can't
be
wait
knackered as well.
I'm all right. I'm doing okay. No, you're carrying me through this. Yeah, I'm not. I should be on Sophia time and a couple of hours ahead, but I'm all right. I'm doing okay. So. Yeah, I'm enjoying the stream. It's good, and thank you for the 17 more and almost 1,800 people who are watching us at this time of night. Never ceases to amaze me when we do a late stream how many people are up and wanting to still think about FPL because I'm always in that mindset on a Friday. I find it hard to wind down, especially over the break, and I'm thinking about okay, it's back. What am I going to do with my moves, particularly this week because a lot of us have got one or two things we could do with the Trent injury. And yeah, it's great to see so many people, like-minded people out watching content at this time of night, which is fantastic.
I've enjoyed it tonight because I've had 2 weeks of kind of stressing about what transfers I'm thinking of doing and everything like that. And then obviously today you get all the press conferences. So, you see the flags starting to come off. You get a bit more kind of information. We did the FPL show. And then it all just kind of, I was like, oh, okay, let's just actually break this down by the players I want to get rid of. It's these three. I'm not going to take a -8. So it's going to, who are the two, worst ones in my team? It's these two. What's the best I can do? Palmer and Hall. It all kind of just comes together on a Friday, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of nice. I mean, I think it's good. It's good to see that you've come to that conclusion, and it's easy thinking for you. And I get it. I think those two moves are excellent. What I should say, of course, is there's people all over the world. It's midnight over in Oz for Trigger, of course.
Look at that, amazing.
And I think we've seen where else there was there was
Live name in Melbourne, having a brekkie.
In Dhaka there. So we have viewers all over the world, which is also lovely to see. So thank you for tuning in wherever you are and whatever time. 9 a.m. in Korea.
Wow, really international. I had a message about us on the FPL show from someone in Ethiopia watching us in a bar in Ethiopia.
Yeah,
literally everywhere.
My sister messaged me to say that her husband had seen us on telly in the pub tonight. So it must be shown. Is it shown on Sky at like 6, 7 o'clock?
Yeah, 6, 7 o'clock. Yeah.
And he was in the pub and it was just a coincidence apparently that he went to the barman to tell him to turn it over to the rugby and turn us off.
Oh, yeah. Not that guy again. See enough of him.
No, thank you for everyone tuning in. The other thing is people have said in the chat, hit the likes. Yes, absolutely. Smash the likes for us if you're still with us at this time of night. Still nearly 1,800 people watching. Thank you for the support. The likes do.
How many likes have we got? Hang on.
Just 379.
Oh, come on. We've got 1,700 watching. smash the like. Let's try and get that up to at least
Yeah.
600. Let's at least double it. Come on.
And if
We'll
you
just sit here
don't
in
subscribe,
silence.
we really should do more with the subscription thing. I've got a button here to press and I can't find where it is now. Let me just there we go. There's the subs thing. If you aren't a subscriber, show your support with subscriptions. We really ought to be more aggressive with that and try and get our subscriptions up. But if you can, and
Aggressive. Subscribe now.
Not that good. I mean, as in, do a bit more of the pop-ups and stuff like that.
We don't really do anything, so yeah,
No.
probably could do a bit more.
We're rubbish with that, aren't we? My team, Flecken, stays for the Everton game. Trent will have
never
to
getting
go.
rid of him.
Well, they've got Leicester next week. I've got to keep him for that. Then he's got to go. Flecken in goal, Trent, Gabriel, Lewis, Mbumo, Johnson, Salah, Semenyo, Rogers, Haaland, Solanke, Poe on the bench with Greaves and Stewart. Greaves could be back to fitness. I don't know if he'll go straight in, but he's certainly first choice for Ipswich, so he may well do. So that might get me a player back, leaving me with just Stewart, who's dead. I have got 2 transfers and 0.6. I was thinking earlier today, of doing Trent to Dina, Solanke to Isak. Nice and simple.
Yeah, I thought you were.
Play
I
Johnson.
thought you were set on that.
What I'm thinking as an option is taking a hit and getting Porro out as well. And listen to this: Trent to Dina, Porro to Hall, Stewart to Isak. I can afford that. So that would give me. Well, I'd probably bench Johnson. Or I'd have to decide, who do I play, Solanke or Johnson? The only way, the reason I like that is because it gets rid of Stewart. It gets me Hall and Dina, who I do think are 2 I want to own in terms of cheap defenders at the moment. And it means that with a packed bench with Greaves back, I can start banking transfers, and then I can decide next week if I want to lose Haaland and get Palmer, or whether I take Haaland over the Christmas period. So I just quite like getting that bench stocked up ready for Christmas. I don't like having Stewart there. And yes, it'll give me a selection headache in some weeks. So I need to spend some time in the planner to see what... Because it'll be Pedro coming in for Haaland and then Johnson to Palmer eventually, right? So then the rotation will probably be between Rodgers and Pedro. If I sell Haaland.
I mean, I like it. Like, if you just think about who you're taking out and who you're bringing in, I think Trent to Hall, good move. Porro to Dean, I'd rather jump off a cliff, but you do you. And Stewart to Isak is like the best upgrade you could ever have in FPL ever. So it's hard to see how Dean could ruin that for you, but he'll find a way. I guess the issue is obviously the benching headache, which people have mentioned, but also that really does lock you out of Saka and Palmer going there, doesn't it? Like you're just not going to be able to do it.
Well, no, because Haaland to João Pedro and then Johnson to Palmer, I'd still have a 5.5 million in the bank.
Okay,
so I can do Mbumo to Saka or Rodgers to Saka even.
Okay, I'll rephrase. You can't do it without selling Haaland. Like you're not going to be able to hold Haaland.
No, so I can't have 4. No, if I want Palmer, I've got to sell Haaland. But then I can get to Salah, Haaland, Palmer. I can. And I'd have Solanke and Isak up front with João Pedro, which isn't bad at all. I think I like that 3. So, I don't know. Yeah. I'm looking at it. I just like the idea of keeping one of the Tottenham attackers. And Johnson's got to go. If I'm getting Palmer, it's going to be Johnson who goes, I think. Unless I can hold on to get Palmer in game week 14, when it could be in Mbumo after he's had the next 2 fixtures. I just wonder if I'm being hasty getting rid of both the Spurs attackers. I'm not necessarily doing it this week, but the plan is that it would be Solanke to Isak and then Johnson would be the one going to Palmer. So it would be without any Spurs attack, whereas I just wonder whether keeping Solanke might be a decent differential.
I do like the hit in the sense that it clears out Porro as well, because I just don't think he's worth the money. So you're dealing with 3 issues as well.
Yeah.
Like you've got 3 issues in this team, and maybe Lewis.
But Lewis becomes someone I don't have to play at all, because Greaves has got decent fixtures to come even. So I'd have 5 defenders who are all playing, and I'd have 3 attackers, and the rotation would be between Rodgers and whoever I get in for Haaland in order to get Palmer. but there will be hits. There'll be a hit this week and possibly a hit next week. If I feel I have to move for Palmer next week, I don't feel I do. Palmer's plays Villa at home. Don't necessarily, because I can keep Johnson and Solanke for Fulham at home. I don't necessarily have to move to Palmer next week.
I'm on a hit, so you might as well take one as well.
I know, so you're going to encourage me to do the same. I'll think about it. There's still plenty of hours left. It's only, 10 past midnight. It's fine. But Trent's going tonight because obviously he's going down in price. So
so Trent to Dean's happening, and then it's whether you bring in Hall as well.
Yeah, Trigger likes it. See, Solanke's still good fixes. This is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, getting rid of all Spurs, holding Spurs might be an interesting angle. Palmer movies now, Mark. I don't know about that. I don't know. If he doesn't deliver at Leicester, Villa at home, I definitely need him in by 14, no question. Don't know if it's
he'll
now.
He'll deliver against Leicester.
I'd rather have Salah than Palmer for this week. So next week, though, no question, because obviously Liverpool plays City.
Even that though, with City with no midfield.
Yeah,
that's going to be That's going to be a scary game. He does well against City as well, doesn't he?
He does. He does tend to lift it, doesn't he? So Palmer is a captain shout, says Tanky. Yes, he is, no doubt. But I don't know if he's a captain shout over Haaland or Salah this week. Should we get on to the super chats?
I'd love to.
We have 4, but only 3 of them are questions. Let's go to Cole Z. Let's bring up the start screen before we do that. Let's go there. There we go. Let's bring up Cole Z. There we go. Cole Z super chat. Thank you very much, Cole Z, for the €5. Would you take a -4 if you have no playing keeper? 0.8 in the bank. My current rotating keepers are Ramsdale and Johnston. Oh, God, that's terrible luck.
Oh, God.
Would you take a -4
Ramsdale and Johnston, though?
For a keeper? Who would you look at if you were going to take a -4 for a keeper? Let's bring up the keeper data because we haven't looked at it today, and I do have it.
I said my answer earlier. I'd be grabbing Verbruggen for 4-5.
Would you? Would you take a hit for him though?
Yeah, you might as well. To not have a playing goalkeeper, you might as well. I mean, he's going to get 2 points, isn't he? You would have thought, unless they concede bucket load of goals, and that's 2 of the hit payback. And then they might make some saves. Yeah,
and Ramsdale and Johnson are not. And even when fit, Ramsdale's not doing great shakes, is he? So, I guess if you look at the ticker long-term prospects, Verbruggen has home games with Southampton, Palace, and Brentford around easier away games as well. Bournemouth, I think, is tricky, but you'd think there's clean sheets against Southampton. You'd think there's maybe a clean sheet at Leicester. Palace is a derby, I guess. West Ham, I mean, that run from 13 is excellent for Brighton, and Verbruggen could get you save points as well. So I do like that pick. Yeah.
But in terms of the question, well. I would definitely take the hit for the goal. You don't want a non-playing player, do you? You might as well hit and hope that you're going to get a haul.
And it's not like you're replacing a keeper who you want to keep long term either. Ramsdale's not someone you want to keep long term. So I think that is I'd do it, and I think Verbruggen's probably the best place to go in the long term.
That's agreeing. Not Flecken.
Sorry?
Not Flecken.
Not Flecken. No. Short term is okay. You might get something at Leicester, but every time I think they're going to get a clean sheet, they find a way of conceding, don't they? And they will against Leicester, no doubt. Heroic Doses says, with the $5, thank you very much, Heroic Doses. Have Vardiol start 2 of these 4. Rico, Leif Davis, Aït-Nouri, Vandenberg. Also take a hit for Luis de Gabriel. Okay, so who would I take out? Who would I play out of those 4? I play Aït-Nouri. Would you play Rico or Leif Davis? Leif Davis at home to United, Rico against Spurs.
Probably. I don't think I'd double up on City defence against Spurs.
No, I'd play Leif then, wouldn't you?
I'd play Leif. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd take the hit. Hits for defenders. I mean, I've taken one, but only because I need the money to do Garnacho up. No, I think I'll just play those. Yeah, and then get Gabriel next week.
Would you take a hit for Luis de Vardiol to Gabriel?
No, I don't think
I wouldn't take a hit for it, but I think it's a move I would want to do eventually.
Yeah. I definitely want to do it, but you've got 3 defenders who are going to play.
Yeah.
And Leif Davies is near the top of the attacking.
Oh, he's right at the top.
Data. Yeah,
right
I'm benching him this week, and I feel like he could get something in that game.
Well, absolutely. If you look at defenders last 6, oh sorry, that's defences last 6.
Don't look at that one. The bottom, Ipswich are bottom.
Yeah, I mean he's second only to Emerson, but Emerson's Yeah, I mean, it's not a small sample with Emerson. It's 0.36, but chances created per 90, 3.33, the most of any defender. And he's also in the top 10 for BPS as well. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet, but Davies could come out with, Ipswich can score against United, and it's worth a go. I think Davies is more likely to get an attacking return than Lewis, and I think the chances of City conceding isn't that far away from being the same as Ipswich, to be honest, because I do think Spurs carry such a threat that they will score. So I think Leif Davies is the way you go there, and definitely play 8 Norway. The super chat from Malachi Fox saying it was great to see the FBL GOAT back on the fantasy show. That's the comment of the night, of course.
And you were on as well, Mark.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that. Very good. We'll quickly move on. And Zovamir, thank you very much, of course, Zovamir, for all your support, a regular viewer and contributor with the super chats. I loathe captaining forwards, but West Ham in almighty trouble has to be Isak for me. Thanks for a great show. Yeah, I mean, we touched on him a little bit there. It's valid, isn't it? Because, like we said, could be 4 or 5 if they get an early goal. Definitely a buy for me. Definitely got to have him.
I play goal scorer challenge, where you pick a goal scorer each week. And I meant to pick Isak game week 1. I thought I had him selected, and it turns out I had no pick. And luckily, Isak didn't score game week 1. Remember when we all had him captain against Southampton? But I've got him this week. So I'm hoping my foolishness of not picking him in game week 1 actually rewards me with a couple of goals in that, even though it will hurt FPL wise. I think he's a great captain option. Really, really strong. You've got to put him in the same bracket as, I think Haaland and Salah are top, like we talked about, but then I think your Isaks, your Palmers, everyone else. Fernandes, we haven't really mentioned, is a potential captain option as well. That's that grey. What's behind that?
Yeah,
that's the grey thing I was telling you about.
And I just don't know why I need to lock this in. It's a bit of an eCam issue. It's basically one of our cams in the background. So sorry about that. I can't seem to fix it at the moment. Sorry?
Oh, I can see my mic. It's me.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's the way I've got it set up in the stream. So I need to correct that for next week. Right at the end of the show, we have a technical issue. But
so close.
Pretend that didn't happen. And on the podcast, you're not seeing any of that, of course, by the way. Thank you very much again. We've gone over the 2 hours. There was 1,800 watching at its peak, still 1,600 with us right at the end there. It is 20 past 12. That was a pleasure to do. As lovely to talk to you again and talk FBL. Lovely to see everybody in the chat. FBL is back and I couldn't be happier about it. There's 8 points between us. Am I going to be ahead of you next week?
You've said that for the last 2 weeks and not quite made it. So as long as Palmer... So it's basically my Palmer and... I've basically got Palmer and Haaland to your Salah times 2. That's the way to look at it. That's going to be the decision. So, I don't know. I feel like that's quite an even battle.
Interesting times and exciting game weeks. This is what we want. It's lovely stuff. I look forward to next week's show. I'll try and do a walkabout video, weather permitting. I mean, the cold isn't going to put me off. I don't think it rains tomorrow, so let's hope Sunday's okay. So I'll hopefully see you on that. If not, we'll be back in Black Box next week. And we'll see what the gap is then. It's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone.